Welcome. How's everyone doing? Where's everyone watching from? Who's in the chat? Where are you watching from today? I know we'll get some of the same as usual. Hopefully some of our regulars will show up today, but maybe we'll get some new people too. Let's see who's here already. TCSO Dog was first. Hey. Welcome. Partner says, you definitely do not target NFL watching fans. Is there something going on? Is today something? I don't know. Welcome. Ione, Louisiana. New Jeans from France. Liraz, is that I don't know my flags? I think that's Israel? Is it? Cosma. Jejongsby. Welcome, everyone. Got someone watching from Norway. Washington, D.C., Stella. Keith is watching from Hello. It's a pretty cool place. I've been there before. Berlin, Kenya, NYC, Romania. Nice. Okay, like I know maybe like 3 flags. I know the Korean flag. Okay, enough to kind of, I think I could draw it. But, and I know the US flag. I know a few other, I know Japanese flag. I can recognize that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I can't even recognize for sure the French flag, despite studying French for like 6 years. I probably could, if it wasn't a trick question, like if it was the common country flags and I had to pick which one's France, I probably get it. But if you pick like a bunch of the countries that have like similar kind of looking flags, I probably wouldn't be able to get it. Seattle, Florida. Kai, welcome. Kai are the chairman of the board at Adobe. Yes. Tennessee, Iran. Yes, Adobe CEO. Dominican Republic, nice. Zambia. Zambia? Oh my goodness. Zambia? Is that the flag? That's kind of cute. Philippines Hawasoyo. Welcome, Krylux. Welcome, India. Never forget. No, I will not. I tell people that one of my subscribers is the CEO of Adobe. I bring it up at dinner parties now. Like, hey, it's cool that you got a promotion at work, and oh, that's cool you're doing a 10-week vacation in this other in Japan. That's awesome. But you know what? One of my subscribers is the CEO of Adobe. Here, the French flag. Okay, that looks, yeah. See, I would pick it out of a list of common countries, but then if you show me like that, I am Ben, which is the France? No, I'd get it there. I know I'd get it there because I know the French flag has red, white, and blue, just like the US. I just know the order is different. But there are a couple other flags where it's like organized in a different way, or there's something else, and I might not get that. I pronounced Iran wrong. Iran, I guess, do I have to say it that way? I grew up saying it as Iran because like I ran to Iran. I don't know. CEO hasn't been fired yet. Yes. Apologies. Yeah, we have a really big lesson today. So if you have any fun questions, chit chat, anything you want to talk about, now is the time, because once this class starts, I'm letting you know, this is the most information heavy lesson I've taught in a very long time. I barely got it to fit on one page, and I had to shrink the text in some places. This topic, do not underestimate this topic. Now, it is simple. I'm going to make you understand it, whether you like it or not, but it's a lot of information to go over. So I put a lot of work and time into it, but it is a lot. It's a pretty big topic. It's this one, the French flag. Yes, yes. The green one is not the French flag. I don't know where that is. Wait, just say ha ha ha. Yes, I know, of course. I want to know why everyone decided to learn Korean. K-pop? Family? Challenge? I think most people I talk with say that they're learning Korean because of something that has to do with K-pop. So I hear that the most often, that, oh, I really like this K-pop group, therefore that's how I first got into learning Korean. However, when I ask people, it depends on the level that I talk with people, why they're currently learning Korean, because the reason will change. I originally, very first time I was learning Korean, it was because I thought a girl was kind of cute. And I was just kind of curious what the language was like, because I was already studying Japanese at the time. But my reason had nothing to do with that a few months later, and then a few years later. And my reason now, or, over time, my reason for learning Korean is changing. So you might start studying Korean for K-pop or for K-drama or whatever, maybe a family member. But the reason that you keep studying it doesn't necessarily have to be the same reason that you started. So if I'll ask people like who get into like a conversational level, like, why are you learning Korean? It's almost never K-pop. It's K-pop for a lot of beginners. That's why they started. But if you ask someone, why are you learning Korean, to someone who's already been learning it for a long time and can kind of speak it, it's not often K-pop. It's different. There are different reasons. Like, oh, well, I started from K-pop, but now I'm actually learning it because, like they'll have a bunch of different other reasons. What about you? I know I was asking a bit about where are all you from, but so we still have a few other people answering. Nigeria, a few other people from India. But why are all of you learning Korean right now? I'm just curious. Don't be ashamed of the reason. I just want to know, why are you learning Korean right now? It's a good question. Drama opened the doors for me. It's just good TV. That's what Keith says. My daughter lives and goes to school in Seoul. She asked me to, and since we go to see her, I'd like to be able to communicate. Yeah, it's a good reason. History is similar to Germany. In what way? I mean, I'm sure there are similarities. I'm just not sure which way, because I don't know German history very much. Is Christianity common in Korea? Asks someone named Faith. Fairly, but it depends in what aspect of it. I would say much less than the US. And Hangul is amazing. Yes. I wanted the challenge and was going to do Chinese, but Korean Englishman videos convinced me to pick Korean. Nice. Gojo says, I'm learning Korean because I like the language. Canada. I still have some of the answers of where are you watching from mixed in with the why are you learning Korean. So why are you learning Korean? Canada. Like, oh, okay, say no more. I gotcha. Several people are mentioning that they wanted to do it as a challenge, but why Korean as a challenge when there are other languages that could also be a challenge? Why Korean? Not to say that Korean's not a challenge. It's for English speakers, it's at the top of the list for the most difficult languages. As an English speaker, again, but there are a couple other languages that are in that same category. I believe it's the same level as Japanese. And there are a couple other languages that are also in that like high tier for how long it takes to learn a language. But yes, I do know that Korean is considered to be one of the most difficult languages by the US government anyway. But it'll be different for other languages. If you already speak a language that has some similarities with Korean's probably not going to be the world's hardest language for you. Seeing the culture in K-dramas, yes. All that culture. Yes. I know what you mean. I think it's mostly K-pop that got me into Korean. Yeah, I hear that. That's what I hear from most people. Planning to go back to Taekwondo. It's a beautiful language and country to visit. I'd like to see the reactions when a foreigner is able to speak their language. They're still surprised. Now, the surprise you'll experience is not as great as the surprise you would have experienced 20 years ago, but it's still there. It's still not an everyday thing to hear someone that doesn't look Korean speaking Korean. So you'll still get some surprised looks. I started at 54 for a trip, stayed for the fun. Nice. I've always wanted to learn a challenging language, and the timing lined up for when I heard a K-pop group I like. Which K-pop group was that? I guess I could guess, depending on the exact year you started learning Korean. It's probably gonna, it's like a 90% chance it's BTS because they're the biggest, but it could have been a different group. Marshmo says, because I didn't want to wait for English translations of books and manhwa. Okay. For work in robotics. That's interesting. Homeschool daughter picked it up and kept learning it after she graduated. Okay. Seemed the easiest writing. Yeah, Korean tricks you like that. It's an alphabet and you can learn the letters in just a few hours. Maybe you can speed run it in like 30 minutes if you really just want to learn the letters. But then it'll take you a lifetime to get fast at it and how to actually read it and pronounce it correctly. Yes. But it does have that it's really attractive in the beginning because you really just need to learn a few letters and now you can read the entire language, which is pretty cool. I started understanding what BTS members were saying, and after I visited Seoul, I loved it so much I wanted to speak more. Nice. Golden Buffy, welcome. I was bored in quarantine during COVID. Korean grabbed my attention. Okay. I didn't find K-pop or K-dramas till after I started learning Korean. Nice. That's less common. As French, Korean is difficult for grammar. So many grammar rules to say the same thing. Yeah, and I'm going to be adding one more to that today. 80s, said Golden Buffy, yes. Germany was divided until 1989, so that's similar. Yeah, that is true. That's pretty similar, yeah. With the Berlin Wall. How do you say something? 20-something. That depends on, like I said, it depends on exactly what you're trying to say. You wouldn't say something in that. You would say they're in their 20s. So, yeah. It's actually not BTS. I started in January. Well, then what's the group? You're not telling us what the group is. That's why I'm thinking it's maybe BTS. But if it's not BTS, then Stray Kids? Is it Stray Kids? Or is it I'm trying to think. Who else? Who else is semi-recent? It's not gonna be New Jeans. Any tips to level my speaking and vocab and grammar? Those are 3 things. They will all have different tips. Some of the Korean words are similar to Chinese and Cantonese. Yes, that is true and there's a reason for that. Stray Kids, yes, it is. Yes, I did my research on the Adobe Creative Director / CEO / board director of the board / founder of Adobe. In fact, yeah. Stray Kids is like the other one I was thinking. That's the other 10%. It was 90% it's from BTS, 10% Stray Kids, and like there's a little half of a percentage for like everything else. Not to say that those groups aren't good, but that's most people get in for BTS, and then lately I'm hearing a lot of Stray Kids. So I guess Stray Kids must have done some recent songs in the past 2 years or so, because I did a video about Stray Kids, but it was like 4 years ago. And at that time, they already had a few hits, but they weren't like the group. They weren't like, they hadn't like exploded or anything at that point. They were just like a regular group that some people have heard of. But now I've heard a lot more. So my guess is that they must have released an album in the past few years that like was really popular. SKZ? Oh yes, Stray Kids. I'm like SKZ. Yeah, Stray Kids. That's right. I'm saying they must have had some new song. I haven't heard because I don't keep up with K-pop except the songs that they play at like cafes in Korea, or when you're walking around like shopping areas and they play, you know, Korean music. I'll know all of those songs. So if it's really big, it'll get in there. Benzino, nice. Isn't that hip hop? I know that name. Isn't that hip hop? I like hip hop. That's the only kind of Korean music that I'll listen to regularly. Will be Korean hip hop music. Hey, Mikey. Mikey is our sponsor for today. Thank you, Mikey. I just like saying Mikey. I know it's Mike E, but Mikey just sounds kind of cool. Like the kid in Goonies, right? Wasn't that kid named Mikey? There was a Mikey in Goonies. I swear there was. Right? I haven't seen that movie in like a decade. Yeah, that was Sean Austin. That was not Frodo. Sam from Lord of the Rings. That was Sean Astin's character, Mikey. I like knowing people's motivation. Thanks for everyone's answers. Yeah, these are kind of interesting answers. I'm learning because N hyphen. Another name I've heard, but I know nothing about. Stray kids are good and all, but ATs are king. All right. Don't fight, guys. Don't fight. I learned 30 years ago. Oh, hey, Korea with kids. I see you a lot on, I think it's, what is it on Reddit? I learned 30 years ago and I'm just keeping it up. Yeah. You've heard chick chick boom, I assume. I have not. What is that? I started learning because I watched a video saying it was easy to learn. Who told you that? Who told you Korean was easy? The alphabet is easy. I'll give you that. Just learning the letters, like this is this sound, that's easy. Piece of cake. Sound change rules, though, are not. And the language is... It's so annoyingly difficult sometimes. Now, I've experienced this already, but having gone through it, there's a lot of stuff that's like, oh my, come on, why did you make it like this? Hey, Glass Artist! Glass Artist! I saw a little red pop up. I'm like, is this Glass? Glass, thank you for being our sponsor today. We got Mikey and we got Glass. Glass! Trying to do a Boston accent and I can't do it. Something Neem, I ended up with what? When did this happen? Oh, while fighting in Afghan. Okay. I hope this isn't a recent. No, I think I had heard this something like this from you before. You'd mentioned that you were doing this as a challenge. I just forgot. Maybe I had the brain injury. Not you. Maybe it was me. To help challenge, I decided on a tough goal. Well, yeah, it is a tough goal. Korean was suggested by a friend. Okay, yeah. Yeah, anyone who says Korean is easy doesn't know what they're talking about. Korean is not easy. Now, I will say that Korean isn't necessarily crazy difficult. There's a lot of stuff in Korean that seems really, really challenging, but once you start taking steps, you'll realize, oh no, I can do this. It's a lot of work, but I can totally do it. But yeah, definitely not easy, I would say. But congratulations on another year of your hard work. 감사합니다, 감사합니다. No dabs required. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. This is the reason why you typed it twice. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Yeah, everyone, Merry Christmas. I mean, if you don't celebrate Christmas, that's cool. Hanukkah, what is it? Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Do you say Happy Kwanzaa? Is that right? And then I'm sure there's some other holidays right now, like there's like some German tree holiday, right? The original Christmas. And then there's like Saint Nick something, which is like also part of Christmas. And then there's like some pagan holiday for something. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff right now. Whatever you're doing, let's remember the true meaning of this season. And that is to get off school and work and get paid extra by our company when we were forced to work on these days. So let's just keep that in mind, the true spirit of this holiday. Okay. Kryluk says, oldies hot. No, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in the US. Although I am in Korea 2/3 of every year. So if you see me during the summertime, I'm most likely in Korea. And if you see me the rest of the year, I'm most likely in the US. Festivus. Oh yeah, that's right. In Festivus, of course. You gotta get the poll. You gotta do the airing of grievances. Oh man. I'm learning to understand BTS Jean's dad jokes, Zandria says. Great. Kai says, Chick Chick Boom is one of Stray Kids' recent songs. Oh, okay. Maybe that's why they are getting more popular lately, is they're releasing more albums. It's always like that. Whatever group is releasing an album is the group that's going to be like the most popular that year. And then even if it's only been like a year or so and a group hasn't released an album, they start to like drop out of popularity really quickly. I've noticed. Like even, what is it? 2016. Does anyone remember the most popular Korean group back in like 2015, 2016? Can anyone recall? It was Twice by far. And they released songs in like 2016, 2018, 2020, and then they like stopped. I believe 2021, they did their last song that I remember that was pretty popular. And then they're still just as talented as they were before, but because they haven't been releasing songs in a while, at least no big songs in a while, like other groups quickly take over. And then I remember a couple years ago, it was New Jeans, which was really big. And then they didn't release any songs in a while. So then it would be like, oh no, after that, after Twice, then it became Blackpink for a while, and then it became New Jeans. And then it changes all the time, like what group is going to be the most popular one. You got to keep releasing new albums in order to stay at the top. That's Adobe's current policy. Yes. Reasons that no one can explain. Kai, I'm starting to think you might actually work at Adobe. You talk about it a lot. If you actually do, blink twice. Let's see. Korean is difficult, especially grammar. More difficult than French grammar. Oh, yes. Oh, man. French grammar. No problem. French pronunciation? No problem. I mean, I didn't get good, but, no problem, I'll say. What was difficult in French was all of the different conjugations. It was just kind of like English in that things were irregular all over the place. And besides that, though, it wasn't too hard. I mean, French is like, it originally comes from the same origin as English. So yeah, it's just like Spanish, French, Italian, a lot of those languages, they kind of have a shared origin. So it wasn't crazy hard to learn things in French because if you think about them literally, it would always make sense again. But I never really got into French. I never really tried hard to learn French. So someday if I can afford to do a trip, like maybe I'll make a new book that gets popular. I'll do a trip to France. And before I go, I'm going to study French for like 3 months, like intensely. That way I can go to the French bakery, open the door and be like, donnez-moi un baguette s'il vous plaît. And the guy's like, this is a, c'est un Wendy's. This is a Wendy's. Something like that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go into a Wendy's and be like, give me a baguette. Stream Strategy by Twice. Twice just had a new album. Okay. Well, maybe they'll go back up then in a month or so once if the new album's popular. I only listen to ATs. Still stream Golden Hour 2. Twice is still the best Billy. And has a new song called Strat. Okay, I didn't know they had a new song. They hadn't done anything in like years. So I was wondering about that. Cecilia said, should I work in Korea? If you want to make less money than the exact same job in the US, then sure. But if you want to be in Korea, then should you work? Yes, because you need to feed yourself, pay for your bills and feed yourself. So yeah, you should work. But specifically getting a job in Korea to work in Korea, if you're not really devoted to being in Korea, I wouldn't recommend that. But if you are going to be in Korea anyway, then yeah, sure. English has a lot of French words, but French is Roman language. English is Germanic. However, they are both from the same origin. So it's true that French, like I've heard that too. French is Romance language and English is Germanic language, but they also have the same root beyond that. So they're both related, even though it's not as recent, I guess, as like French and Spanish and those languages. They still are the same origin. Learn French with Go Billy Korean. It's going to be that. Not Go Billy French. It's going to be Go Billy Korean. How do you say 그럼 다음에 또 봐 in French? How can I say 그럼 다음에 또 봐 in French? You can come to Quebec to practice your French. It's different accent. That's right. Yeah, no, it's totally different. Twice comes to LA every year. You should go. I don't know. Yeah, do they come to visit me? I didn't know that. They never contacted me. À la prochaine. À la prochaine. À bientôt. À bientôt. One thing I love with Billy is he has no bias on K-pop. Yes, because I don't care. I just listen to whatever is good. I don't really care if this group made it or it's new or old or whatever. If it sounds cool, I'll listen to it. So, and I do that every time I do my K-pop analysis videos, is I go through the artist's entire discography, like literally everything, like demo tracks that they release that are on the internet. And I'll listen to everything. And I did this for ATEEZ as well. And I did this for Stray Kids before when I did them. I've done this for all the groups I've done. And I'll find a couple songs that I really like, because that can help me to understand the group better. Like, this is a song I connect with. I think this is cool. Okay, now we're ready to start, you know. But I don't go out of my way to listen to a group's album or whatever, because I don't follow any group. How many words of vocab a day would you say is realistic? I'd say between 5 and 15, but I wouldn't go really above there unless you have a specific reason for it. 5 is going to be good. 10, 15 if you're a beginner. I'll say that. Let's try for 10 or 15 if you're a beginner. More is not better. I'm just saying in that range is fine. Billy is such a dad when it comes to K-pop. Yeah, I mean, I like it. For me, what I really like is when I do these K-pop analysis, or I shouldn't say K-pop, because, you know, some fans might get upset if I call it K-pop when they really don't only do pop, they do different genres, but you know what I mean. Korean music. What I like about doing this about groups I have no clue about is that I get to see how hard they're working. I get to see how involved they are in the process of making their songs, because I know basically how the music industry works. I know they're not writing their own songs and making their own music, but there are cases where they get to put a hand into it, like do a little bit of work on it, or like they get to help, you know, doing their, deciding their dance moves or choreography. Sometimes they'll get to do a little bit of that. And it's just cool seeing the personalities of the members and how much they put in themselves into the work that they're doing, versus just being like forced from the outside. Like, you do this dance, this is your character, you talk like this. Instead of that, you get to see kind of them putting their own personalities. And that's kind of what I think is cool about ATEEZ, is that I don't detect that they're acting. I feel it's like it's just them, that they're just being themselves. They just don't really care. And they have a group, whoever's managing them, KQ, are doing a good job and just letting them do whatever they want, which is kind of unique, I think, in K-pop. You don't get to see that. Usually it's more manufactured. Just in case you're curious about ATEEZ, what I've noticed about them is it doesn't seem as manufactured as some of the other groups that I've seen. No offense to the ones that are, but I like this. I like seeing this sometimes. Hey, Kai. Thank you, Kai. Sorry, I'm a little bit late to read that. We'll get started with our lesson just in a second. It's now past 2 o'clock. I should have started already. Kai, thank you. Top of the hour. Kai has that top of the hour spot. Okay, let's get started with our lesson. Stray Kids, they produce their own music. That's right. Yes, some groups make their own music, although they won't be the actual producer. They'll just have input in the process. And someone else who spent 2-3 decades of their life only using that music program and using the instruments, the VSTs, will do it, and then they'll work on it together with the artist. Because you're not gonna get an amazing, brand new, like interesting sounding, unique K-pop song that's perfectly mixed by a kid who's spending all his day practicing dance and singing and doing promotion. Like, you can't then go and spend 10 hours a day for a month to make a single song in a music program that you've never used in your life. It's a different process making music, but I know some of the groups, they do still try to get involved a lot in that other process of making the music. Hey, Bill. Bill said something in Korean. I got to read this. Hold on. Let me get on my reading glasses so I can read your Korean. It's a little bit hard for me to read Korean, you know. Bill. 곱창. What's with this? What's with the 곱창 all of a sudden? How did you know I like 곱창? No dabs, just have a Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. I love 곱창, but my wife doesn't. My wife doesn't really care too much about 곱창, but I love it. So I don't have anyone to eat it with except maybe my kid. Jeremy would probably like it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Bill. Again, I gotta get started. Billy, you don't know Hongjung. Okay, great. Let's get started. We have We have a really big lesson for today. Oh, wait, before. If you don't already have these. If you don't already have these, I have cheat sheets for Korean. They have verb conjugation for the Yule form, the entire Korean alphabet, all the common postpositions, dates and seasons, counting days and weeks and months and all that stuff, the most common markers and particles, and all the sound change rules. And these are completely free. So get these if you don't already have them. Okay. Now we can start our lesson. So we're going to be learning a lot of things today. So this is a long lesson. I'd say I recommend taking notes. We're going to be learning about something called, actually not something called, we're going to be learning about this, 만큼. Now, you might have seen 만큼 before, or you might have seen a piece of it if you've ever learned about the form 만하다. Like something's as much as, something's as big as, 만하다. This has the same man as 만하다. We're not going to be going over this though in today's lesson, but I do have a separate lesson about this on my channel, 만하다. 만큼 means an amount or a quantity or a volume of something. So just an amount of something is a 만큼. How much? How many? How much is in there? Whatever amount of something is 만큼. And it can be used, it can translate though different ways. It's not going to translate as amount. This is just what it literally means. Often you're going to see it translated as something like as much as. Oh, we got a donation. Lexica. Switch markers here. Lexica, minute 7. 보라 해요. Why is YouTube weird about using Hangul in comments? It is? Lexica, because you gave me 보라 해요, I'll write your name in purple. Specifically, just especially for you. Only for you, I'll put your name in purple. Everyone else doesn't get purple. Just you do. Thank you, Lexica. Fortunately, it's still legible. Some Koreans will actually write like that on purpose to be funny, like every single letter separately, but I don't know why it's not letting you use it. You can try commenting, you can try typing it into like Notepad and then copy and pasting it. That could work. Okay, so this means an amount, a quantity, or a volume, and it might translate as much as, depending on how it's being used. So let me just give you a really quick example of how this works. Here's a really basic example of using this. 저는, I, 철수 씨, so our friend 철수, Mr. 철수, 만큼, an amount. 똑똑하다, to be smart. In this case, 똑똑하지 않아요. So I am not smart. The amount of 철수, literally, or I am not smart as much as 철수. I am not as smart as 철수, as in I am not smart as much as 철수 is smart, is how you can interpret this, because literally 만큼 is an amount. So here it is, the amount of 철수. So you can look at the sentence without 만큼 and whatever it comes after first to help you understand it. So if we look at this part, 저는 똑똑하지 않아요. I am not smart. How not smart am I? How unsmart am I? Well, the amount that I am not smart, the amount is 철수's amount. That's how you can think of this. So I am not smart, the amount of 철수, implying that 철수 is smarter. What do you think about this? What does this mean? Does this mean that 철수 is smart? Or does that mean that 철수 is not smart? What do you think? Literally, I'm not smart. The amount of 철수. What does that mean then? This is our first sentence, so don't stress too much if you don't understand it. I'm just kind of curious what people think. New jeans. Yeah, you don't know the because meaning. That's fine. We're going to be doing... We have 5 different uses of 만큼 for today. This is the first one. Just smarter than you? Okay. He's smart. All right. Most people are thinking he's smarter. That's fine. I'm not as smart as you. Right. So I'll just say normally when you use this word 만큼, this particle 만큼 is really commonly misused because we translate this as I am not as smart as 철수, or I'm not smart as much as 철수, implying 철수 is smart and I'm not that smart, right? However, the literal meaning of 만큼 was never as much as. It is only amount or quantity or volume. So if 만큼 just means the amount of, right? 철수's amount, the amount that 철수 is, this could be either. This could mean both. I am not as smart as 철수, implying that 철수 is smarter than me. I'm not at his level. Or 철수's level is here. He is unsmart. And I am also at that amount. It can mean both. Actually, you have to match it. It can mean both that 철수 and I are both dumb, or 철수 is smarter than me and I'm not at his level. It can mean either. So, what does this mean? It means that when you use 만큼, it's really easy to make a sentence that has both meanings, especially when you're using negatives. It can easily have the meaning of that person is also not whatever I'm saying that I'm not or that I don't. So be careful because it's really easy to make a sentence that's vague. Because again, this can mean 철수 is not smart and I am also that amount, not smart. Or it can mean 철수 is smart, but I am not that amount. So again, do not translate this literally as much as, or you're going to have these types of sentences. Instead, think of it as the amount that, or the amount of, like that. So we could also make this sentence. 저는 철수 씨만큼 똑똑해요. So now, 저는 똑똑해요. I am smart as much as 철수. Literally, 철수's amount. I am smart. So now 철수's smart and I'm smart. This sentence is not vague because I am smart. The amount of 철수. We are both smart. I am that. But when you're using it with negatives, it's easy to have a sentence that can be vague. So just be careful about that. That you might need to be extra clear when you make your sentences so that it doesn't sound like I am not and someone else is also not, or I can't and someone else can't. You need to make it extra clear that you mean, no, they can, but I am not as much. And you can do that by changing grammar around in the sentence. But just know that even if you make a sentence, just know that if you make a negative sentence with 만큼, it might be interpreted that way and it can be really vague. In fact, it can sound vague and wrong because the listener won't really know quite what you're saying unless it's like the context is really clear. So just be careful about that. Okay, so let's do another example. Just something to look out for when you're making negative sentences. Okay. 저는 제 친구, my friend, 만큼, the amount of my friend. 한국어를 잘해요. I speak Korean well. Again, language, 하다 is how you say to speak a language, literally to do a language, but 하다 is short for 말하다. 한국어를 잘해요. So I speak Korean well. as much as my friend, or literally the amount that my friend, the amount of my friend. So I speak Korean well, the amount of my friend is what we get, literally. And that's, if you can understand it that way, it'll help. Naturally, though, you'd probably say as much as my friend. So in this case, I speak Korean well, and my friend speaks Korean well, and we both speak Korean the same amount. But if you were to change the sentence into 잘 못해요, that doesn't mean I don't speak Korean as well as my friend. It could mean, but it could also mean that my friend doesn't speak Korean and I don't speak Korean either. So you have to be careful about how it goes. You could change the sentence to make it more clear, like 잘 하지는 못해요. Like, well, I can't speak as well as my friend can. And that emphasis can make the meaning be that it kind of implies that I can't, but my friend can if you change the emphasis around, or just change the sentence. 제 친구가 저보다 훨씬 잘해요. My friend is much better than me. That's more clear than saying I do not speak it as well as my friend. So again, always think of this as meaning the amount of, not as much as. Otherwise, you're going to have weird sentences when you make it negative. Okay, I'm going to check the chat for just a second. You were being nice to Charsu today. Yeah, it'll depend on the context. And without any context, just a sentence on a board, it can easily be considered vague and wrong. It'll sound weird because the listeners could be like, do you mean that they don't speak either? Because again, Koreans don't think of this as meaning as much as. Koreans hear this and think of an amount. So if you say, I don't do that, the amount of this person, it sounds like we both don't do it. Right? But with context, then it can be, oh, of course they mean as much as. But they're not thinking of as much as like we are in English. As much as means someone else has more or someone else is more like that. And I'm not quite as much as is what it implies. In Korean, though, this does not mean as much as. It only translates as much as. It means amount. I'm just letting you know, though, this is the most basic usage of 만큼. There are 4 more. This is the most basic one. So I hope, though, that you'll get this, that it means amount. If you know that it means amount, you're going to be good for 2 of these uses, 2 of the 5. Okay. Actually, I guess maybe, yeah, okay. tulip, that's tulip, the flower. tulip은 장미꽃. 장미 is rose, so the rose flowers. 만큼, the amount of roses. 인기가 많아요. 인기 is popularity. 인기가 많다, literally to have a lot of popularity or to be popular. So we can look at it again, remove whatever 만큼 is used with just to understand the sentence. 튤립은 인기가 많아요. So tulips are popular. How popular are they? As I think Rodney Dangerfield would say, something like that. How popular are they? They are the amount of roses popular. So that's what it means. And then when you make your natural translation, you can say they are as popular as roses. Tulips are as popular as roses is a natural translation, but tulips are popular. The amount of roses is a more literal translation that might help you to understand it better. 튤립은 장미꽃만큼 인기가 많아요. So tulips are as popular as much as roses. But if you were to say 인기가 없어요, not popular, then you're saying 튤립은 인기가 없어요. How much are they unpopular? They're unpopular as much as roses, or maybe they're not as popular as roses. It can mean both. But if you're already talking about popularity and comparing them, then you make this comparison, it'll be clear you mean not as much as, but without any context, it's vague and it sounds kind of weird. So just know that. Don't throw 만큼 around everywhere and think that they're going to understand what you mean, especially if it's with a negative usage. Okay, I'll leave this up for just a second and then we'll continue. Inky is popular. Yes. Not that Inky. Isn't that one of the ghosts? The ghost name's Inky? Waka 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 waka. The amount that roses are. Yes. Okay. Okay, I gotta go a little bit faster just because we gotta get through this first section. This is the basic stuff. Today's lesson is intermediate, but this sort of usage is more beginner level. Maybe high beginner. Okay, one more sentence before we go on to the next part. 저는 I 공부를, let's remove this for a second. 공부를 했어요. So I studied. 저는 공부를 했어요. How much did I study? 이만큼. Amount. This amount. You can translate that more naturally as this much. And you can use 만큼 with 이, 그, and 저. For this much, that much. 그만큼, that much. 저만큼, that much. 이만큼, this much. If you ask your kid, or if your kid asks you, how much do you love me? You can say, 이만큼 사랑해요. I love you this much. Like that. Again, amount. Literally this amount. So, how much did I study? 저는 공부를 이만큼 했어요. So I did studying this much. I did this much studying is what we get. Again, amount. In every way, 만큼 just means amount. Naturally, though, you're going to translate it as much as, or sometimes just much. But literally, it always just means amount. Okay, I'll leave this up just 10 seconds, and then we're going to go on to our next topic. We still have 4 more topics. Wandex BH asks, and I know what the haji is for negative sentences. If you haven't learned those, I have videos on my channel about how to make negative sentences. What if you say, I study as much as Billy? Why don't you try making that sentence? Again, for Billy, you'd want to do Billy 선생님, Billy teacher, or Billy 쌤. Same thing. Okay. So that's the most basic way of using 만큼 and what it means. But that's not the only way you're going to see 만큼 being used. You're also going to see it commonly used after an adjective. Now, this adjective can come from any verb, an action verb or a descriptive verb, and in any tense. Now, last Sunday, we did a review of how to conjugate descriptive verbs into different tenses and talked about that. You can watch that if you need a review, but I mean, now it's too late because we're already teaching it. But you have any adjective and then you attach 만큼 after that. So it's the same word, 만큼, in amount, but now it's with a verb. Again, this could be an action verb or a descriptive verb. So let me give you an example. If you have 하다, you could have in the past tense, 한, in the present tense, 하는, again, to do, or in the future tense, 할. So you'd have 한 만큼, 하는 만큼, 할 만큼. The amount that I, future tense, will, the amount that I, present tense, the amount that I do, or past tense, the amount that I did. And that's how the meaning will change. Or if we take a descriptive verb, let's just do 춥다, to be cold. Actually, that's not a good one because we have to do exceptions to that. Let's just do 바쁘다, to be busy. We can have 바쁜, present tense, 만큼. As much as it's busy, or as much as I'm busy, or future tense, as much as I will be busy, or past tense, as much as I was busy. So depending on what tense you're using, the translation can change, but it's always still the same meaning. 만큼, amount. So the amount that I did, do, or will do, or am, will be, or was, if it's a descriptive verb, whatever verb it's used after. This will make a bit more sense when you see some examples. So, what is this one then? It still just means amount. Literally, the amount that I something, the amount that I can, the amount that I do, the amount that I did, the amount that I will do. It still literally means that, but a better way to think of it in that context is an extent, like up to that amount. Like up to that amount is what you can think of. Though literally it still means the exact same thing, an amount. So this will translate naturally though, not as this is just a way to think of it. It'll translate naturally as maybe so much that. Or as much as. Or maybe just to that amount. So you can translate it several different ways, but it still has the exact same meaning. So this might still be a bit confusing if this is your first time seeing it. So let me just give you an example sentence really quick. Let's switch to blue. I'm just going to give you this first. This is just a sentence. No mankum here yet. 먹을 수 있어요. 먹다, to eat. 먹을 수 있어요. So I can eat. So I can eat it. So let's make this into the present tense. So now it's an adjective. 있는. 만큼. The amount, literally the amount that I can eat. Present tense. Not that I could eat in the past or I will be able to eat in the future, but the amount that I can, present tense, eat. Yes, literally the amount that I can eat. You could already use this to do stuff with it. Like, what was the amount that I could eat? Or, I don't know the amount that I can eat. Anything like that, you can use it. But let's finish the sentence. 만, only. 가져가다 is to take and go somewhere, like just to take something and go. 가져가세요. So take only the amount that you can eat. Only take as much as you can eat. So sometimes you'll translate this 만큼 as much as, but literally you can also understand how it means only take the amount that you can eat. That's fine, right? It's just not as natural as saying only take as much as you can eat. But both, it's the same thing. Only take the amount that you can eat. So that's a really simple way to use it. Now you can use 만큼 not just with nouns like before we saw with like 철수 or like flowers or whatever, but you can also use 만큼 with verbs. Again, to make the verb form of this, you're going to have to change that verb into an adjective. In this case, 있다 becomes 있는 in the present tense. You can do any tense though, any verb you want, but now you can use 만큼 to say the amount of whatever comes before it with anything, nouns and verbs. I'll leave this up for just a minute before we go on to our next sentence. This lesson will 이만큼 useful. Yes, Raymond. Billy really said, make sure to address me correctly. Yeah, because I don't mind if someone says no to me. Now, no means you, but it's only for people who are at the same level of you. So that would be the same age as you and close to you, or people who are younger than you. And you would never use no to a stranger you're meeting for the first time. Even if they are the same age as you, you wouldn't say no to them unless you're already close, because it sounds like you're putting them down or you're saying you are no better than me at all. So if you use no to a teacher, if you were a Korean, you'd get in serious trouble. If you're a Korean learner, they're just going to cringe and be like, oh, I guess they don't know any Korean. Even if you're speaking in Korean, they're going to think, oh, I guess they don't know any Korean. So it would be quite offensive, though. Teachers, we understand. I've talked with other teachers who get students using this to them. They understand because they know you're learning. But if you want to make a good impression on a teacher, like I said, I don't mind because I understand as well. Don't use this to a teacher or someone older than you ever. Or a stranger, ever. It's just very rude. 너 means you. Oh, I see yellow. Flo! Bottom of the hour. Flo Purdy. Thank you so much. We got all of our Christmas presents ready. I think last time I got donations that paid for all of Jeremy's Christmas presents. Like really, I think last time I got like $150 or something like that, and I think that paid for all of Jeremy's gifts for everything he wanted this year. But yeah, so we got everything ready. Everything's wrapped. Jeremy doesn't know, but he's gonna be happy. He's got a bunch of little cool things that he wanted coming up for Christmas. Okay. 먹을 수 있는 만큼만 가져가세요. So take only the amount that you can eat, or only take as much as you can eat. So how you translate it is up to you. Just know what it always literally means. Okay. Hopefully everyone's feeling okay. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible because there are a few other things we have to talk about. Okay. This sentence first. 죽지 않아요. 죽다 is to die. So 죽지 않아요. I'm not gonna die. I'm not dying. 죽지 않을. Future tense. 만큼. The amount that I will not die. Again, future tense. Not 않는. Present. Not 안은. Past. But 안을. Future. The amount that I will not die. Just gonna erase this and finish the sentence. Yeah, whatever. 죽지 않을 만큼 만 먹었어요. So, we can just look at the verb at the end first. 먹었어요. 먹었어요. So I ate. Well, how much did I eat? I ate the amount that I will not or would not, because future tense can mean will or would. The amount that I would not die. Only the amount that I wouldn't die. Literally, I only ate the amount that I wouldn't die. Or, I only ate enough so I wouldn't die. So I didn't eat too much. I only ate the amount that I will not die at that amount. Right? So I only ate a tiny bit. 죽지 않을 만큼만 먹었어요. So I only ate so much so that I wouldn't die. Is what it means. Again, future tense. I'm going to leave this up for a minute so you can process it, because I know this is a little bit trickier. Keith is talking about 정도. Yeah, we're actually going to be talking about 정도 as well for today. 죽지 않을 만큼만 가져가세요. Yeah, only take so much that you won't die. Very nice, Ayakata, which means like don't take anything. Am I remembering that? Was this a Disney cartoon where the characters were slicing like a bean or something into like the thinnest slices? I feel like it's an old Disney cartoon. It's either old Looney Tunes or old Disney. Anyway, yeah, like just the tiniest amount. 죽지 않을 만큼, the amount that you would not die, or I would not die, or someone wouldn't. Only that amount. 먹었어요. That's all I ate. I only ate as much as so that I wouldn't die. So I only ate as much so that I wouldn't die. I can't really translate this, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Literally, the amount, only the amount that I would not die. That's all I ate. Okay. again, this is, hopefully you can see by now that it's helpful to think of 만큼 as meaning amount. Because even when the translation in English keeps changing, at least in Korean, it still makes sense as amount. So let's do one more sentence with this form, and then we have 3 more forms to go on. Oh, it's going to be a hard sentence. Look how it starts. 저는. It's crazy. It's like super advanced level. Let's take a step further. Let's go one step further. We can do more with 만큼 than we've been doing so far. So let's look at this first, just at this part. 저는 돈을 내요. 돈을 내다 is to pay money. So pay. I pay money. I pay. How much do I pay? Which is going to be everything before 만큼. Well, I pay 인터넷, the internet. 인터넷을 쓰다. 쓰다 meaning to use. So I use the internet. In this case, it is 쓴, past tense. So the amount that I used the internet, I pay. That's the sentence. If you can understand the sentence like that, you don't need to stress about translating it into English, because the English translation is going to be different. 저는 인터넷을 쓴 만큼 돈을 내요. So I pay the amount that I used the internet. And you can get that, right? I used the internet this amount. So the amount that I used it, I paid for. So I only pay for the internet that I used, is how you can translate it naturally. But if you couldn't come up with this sort of natural translation right away, if you understand it literally, you've got it. Because this form is only a literal translation form. You don't have to think about it abstractly. It literally means an amount. It always just means an amount. So I pay money for the amount of internet that I used is one way you can think of it. Or if you understand the Korean, that's it. 저는 인터넷을 쓴 만큼, so the amount that I use the internet, 돈을 내요. I pay money. So I pay money for the amount of internet that I used. Again, 쓴, past tense. The verb 쓰다, to use. So the amount that I used. You could have also made the sentence 쓰는 만큼 돈을 내요. So I pay the amount of internet that I use. Or 쓸 만큼, the amount that I will use, right? It always just means amount. Hopefully this kind of helps it make more sense. But you're not really restricted. Like it has to be this tense and this one in this situation. It's any tense you want. Any verb. Descriptive verb or action verb. Whatever. It'll make sense in Korean because, again, it just means amount. So while this is a little bit tricky, I agree, to translate naturally into English, using this form is extremely easy because it doesn't have like restrictions for it. It really just means the amount. Bora, you can just do 안을 만큼 because the 지 않다 is already as a verb. Okay. So we've just spent like half an hour talking about how 만큼 means about. But what if I told you that 만큼 can also mean because? Specifically, 만큼 can also mean a reason. But how? Well, it actually doesn't. It actually still means an amount. We'll talk about that. But when you're translating 만큼, in some cases, when it's used after an adjective, so just like before, it can also translate into English as because. So, first of all, before I teach you this form, I'm going to tell you a super pro tip about how to understand a sentence that has 만큼, that doesn't seem to mean that doesn't seem to mean an amount, but you know it means because, but you can't quite understand, well, how is it being used? You can swap this form in your head for 으니까. 으니까 means because. So if you see a sentence that has 만큼 and you just can't understand how this possibly means an amount, and you think it maybe means because, but you're not quite sure if you understand the sentence, just swap it for 으니까. It'll make sense. So this is just a pro tip to help you understand sentences that have this where it means a reason. So how does it mean a reason? Well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example sentence and explain to you. Again, it still means amount, but it can be used to mean a reason. So I'll keep this up for a second and I'm going to give you an example. Another day, another Korean way to say because. If I had a nickel for every way there was in Korean to say because, I'd probably have like $1, which isn't a lot of money, but it's a lot of nickels. Haha, yes, another because. Yeah. It's funny because it's true. God, how Koreans have way too many ways to say because. Like, what's up with that? Why? But again, it doesn't really mean because. And a lot of the forms in Korean that you learn that mean because don't actually mean because. They just translate to because we don't have another way of expressing that in Korean. Like even the form like 탓, like it means the fault. We would say on the fault of, or due to the fault of something, but that translates awkwardly in English. So we just say because of. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Korean like that where it's not really because, but because there's no other way to translate it where it sounds naturally, we just default and say because. And this is another example. Okay. So again, the way it works is you take an adjective, any tense, and you attach 만큼 to it. So, let's see. Let's do that. All right. Let me give you an example sentence first. If it makes you feel any better, every single sentence I've seen that uses 만큼 to mean because is long. You're not going to be using 만큼 in short sentences to mean because. That's because using 만큼, I'll just say this, using 만큼 instead of 으니까, while it has the same meaning, 만큼 has more of a fancy feel to it. So you'll hear people give speeches or announcements using 만큼 to mean because. But they're not going to be using 만큼 in their day-to-day interactions with each other because it doesn't sound conversational. It sounds a little bit fancy. So keep that in mind. Most of the sentences you'll see that use 만큼 and mean because in English are going to be a little bit longer and fancier sounding. But that's not to say it's uncommon. I hear this form all the time. It's only in those situations, though, that I hear it, when someone's like giving a speech or a presentation or like trying to talk about something a little bit fancier, or they're writing something to look a little bit fancy. So here's our first sentence, 피망. 피망 is bell pepper. 피망은 아이들이, so children, 아이들, 싫어하다, dislike, 싫어하는 채소. So let's just go up to, my voice cracked. Let's just look at this part so far. 싫어하는 채소. So 아이들이 싫어하는 채소. 채소 is a vegetable, so it's a vegetable that children 싫어하는, present tense, dislike. 아이들이 싫어하는 채소. So if we just look at this and say 입니다 at the end, then 피망은, bell peppers, are a vegetable that children hate or children dislike. 피망은 아이들이 싫어하는 채소입니다. Are we okay with this part? Because you should be okay with this part before we complete the sentence. So it's a vegetable that children dislike. I think most kids probably don't like broccoli, or I know that in the US, the number one vegetable that kids wouldn't like, that's common, would probably be, that people actually serve to their kids, would probably be broccoli. Although Jeremy likes it, my kid likes it. In Asia, however, and I think they changed this as well for, I think the Pixar movie Inside Out, I think it was, where the kids eating broccoli in the American version, and then the Asian versions, the kids eating bell pepper, because that's the equivalent over there of the vegetable that kids wouldn't like. But anyway, so in 만큼. Here, in is from 이다, to be. 이다 in the present tense becomes in. So first, let's see how it means because. So let's just pretend it means because first. In 만큼. So because 피망, bell peppers, are a vegetable that children hate. 더 맛있게. 맛있다 is to be delicious. So more 맛있게, so that it's delicious. More deliciously, more tastily, whatever. 요리하다 is to cook. So I cooked it better tasting because it's a vegetable that children hate. So because kids hate bell peppers, I made it taste better. I worked hard to make sure that they tasted good. So I did a good job cooking them to make them taste good because, you know, bell peppers are a vegetable that kids hate. So because bell peppers are vegetables that children dislike, I cooked them so that they taste better, is how you could translate it naturally. Or literally again, 피망은 because bell peppers are a vegetable that children hate. Because of that, 인만큼 더 맛있게, more deliciously, I cooked them. So, if you just know that 만큼 can mean because, you're good. But if you're interested, I can also provide a reason why. So here's the reason. 만큼, in amount. Again, this is going to be a bit of a stretch for this sentence, but let me see if I have another example. There are some more examples in the worksheet if you're curious as well. So 만큼, amount. So the amount that 피망, that bell peppers, are a vegetable that kids hate, because of that amount. So kids really hate it. That amount is big. So I made it that much better to match. Again, I made it. How did I make it? 더 맛있게. How more deliciously did I make it? I made it the amount that kids hate it, is what you get literally. You do not need to keep this in mind, though. This is just for the curious who are wondering, how could it possibly have a meaning like that? And there are many sentences where you can have a double translation where it means both because and the amount that, like as much as. I don't know if I have any examples for this outline, but there are some examples in the worksheet. I might have removed them just because there are too many examples to give for this lesson. Let me see. Yeah, they're in the worksheet, but I didn't put them in here, I think. 볼 수 있는 만큼. Okay, we actually can kind of go back and look at one of our sentences. So I'm going to leave this up just for a second, and then I'm going to go back to another sentence that we just did and talk about it again. Yeah, Wandek's like, what a stretch. Yeah, it's the reason why it can have the meaning of because. Again, it never actually means because. But if you think about it as meaning because, that makes it a million times simpler. Just think of this as meaning 채소이니까, because it's a vegetable that kids hate. 더 맛있게 요리했어요. So I cooked it to taste better because it's a vegetable that kids like. But this much, the amount that kids don't like this vegetable, that amount, I cooked it better, is what it also means. The 만큼, the amount that kids don't like it, I made it better. So they don't like it this much, so I made it this much better, is also what it can mean. But we don't need to translate it that way because, I mean, you don't even need to think about it that way. This is just for people who are like scratching their heads about how could 만큼 have that sort of meaning? It doesn't mean because. And it's true. If you check the Korean definition, there's nothing about it meaning a reason, except in the grammar form when it's used for a reason. But there's nothing in the actual word that means a reason. If you want to go even further, the word 만큼 itself has nothing to do with a reason. The word 만큼 actually is from 만하다. 만하다 means 만큼. It means an amount. 만하다. You've seen this in the word 만하다, maybe you have. So 만 by itself means an amount. 큼 is just an emphatic ending that they stuck onto the end of 만. It wasn't 큼, it was, I believe, like kat or some other strange sound. I actually can't remember. And it means 씩. It means each. So it's like each amount of something. And this word evolved over time to just to mean 만, just to mean an amount. So there's nothing in here that has anything to do with reason. It's literally just an amount. It has no other meaning. In fact, there's another word, 많지, which also has the same meaning. So that's all it is. Let's go back to one more sentence. This is not part of the lesson, but I did kind of want to give you a better example of something that can have that meaning of because. So we just did the other sentence before. I'm just going to write this messy because you already have it. You get to see my real writing. This is how I actually write when I'm not teaching something. Okay. 저는 인터넷을 쓴 만큼 돈을 내요. We saw this sentence already, right? 쓴 만큼, the amount that I used the internet. 돈, money, 내다, pay. So I paid money. So I pay money, the amount that I use the internet, right? I pay money for the amount of internet that I use, or literally I pay money for the amount of internet that I used. 저는 인터넷을 쓴 만큼. Because we could also look at this sentence as a because sentence for the exact same reason, and it'll make perfect sense. 쓰다, past tense. 저는 인터넷을 썼으니까, because I use the internet, I pay money. It's the exact same sentence, but now it's just talking about the reason. But in English, it translates as the exact same. It can translate the exact same way. I pay money for the internet because I used it. So because I use the internet, I pay money. Or, again, I pay money for the amount. So if you change 만큼 to because, it's going to make sense for a lot of other sentences too. But usually you don't want to do that unless you get to a sentence when you're translating, unless you get to a sentence where it's like, it doesn't make any sense if I say it as amount to me. When you get to there, when you're like, oh wait, I don't understand how this means amount. That's when you say, oh, that's right. This must be because. So the amount that I use to the internet, I pay money. Or 쓴 만큼. I use the internet this much and I paid this much. So I use the internet because I use the internet, I paid. It's both meanings at the same time. And if you check out the worksheet, there's a worksheet for every live stream I do. There are more sentences on there as well that you can look at like this, where it can both mean as much as or because. And one of those will sound more natural, and that's the one that you pick. But it's the same form, which is kind of, I think, what makes it a bit confusing. Because it's the exact same form, not changing in Korean, but the way you translate it will be completely different, depending on whether it makes sense or not. In this case, I think as much as is a better translation. But it also logically flows, I pay money because I use the internet. Again, in Korean, though, it's the same thing. 만큼 is not transforming its meaning. It's still 만큼. Hopefully I didn't make that more confusing for you, but anyway, that's the reason, that's the why. That's the why this form can mean because, but again, you do not need to keep that in mind. You can take a little note. Just know that it can also mean because, and you're good. The unika form, and you're good. That's all you need. Okay. So let's do another sentence. This is a sentence that your favorite Korean music group could say. Legitimately a sentence that they would make. 오래 준비한 만큼 멋진 무대를 보여드릴게요. 오래, for a long time. This is an adverb, means for a long time. 준비하다, to prepare. 준비한, past tense. 한 만큼. So the amount that we prepared for a long time. So how much did you prepare for a long time? We prepared 이만큼, this much, this amount. So what's going to be on the other side? It's going to be the exact same amount of what? 멋진, 멋지다, to be cool. Like awesome, cool. 멋진 무대. 무대 means stage, but it also means stage performance. 무대를 보여드리다 or 보여주다, to show. 보여드릴게요. So I'm going to show you, or we will show you, a awesome performance this much. Because we prepared this much for a long time, we're going to show you this much of a cool performance. But because that's a little bit vague to translate it like that, like as much as we have prepared for a long time will be how cool of a performance that we're going to show you, is a literal translation of it. But that just sounds wrong. It doesn't make any sense in English. So because we can't translate that in English, we just say because we prepared for a long time, we're going to show you a cool performance. 오래 준비한 만큼 멋진 무대를 보여드릴게요. And that's all you get in English. You lose that translation of 만큼 because it's just being used as a reason in this case. Although literally, sure, it's the amount, but you don't really need to think of it like that because it doesn't make, it's like really confusing like that. Just think of it as, if it doesn't make sense right away as meaning an amount, just think of it as meaning because, and you're going to be fine. I would recommend doing it this way. But I hope that my explanation has cleared some doubts for people who are just like mind blown that this 만큼 can have multiple meanings. But yeah, again, that's what it is. 오래 준비한 만큼 멋진 무대를 보여드릴게요. So because we prepared for a long time, we'll show you a cool stage performance. And this 만큼 sounds cooler than just saying 준비를 했으니까, because 으니까, while it means because, is only a spoken, it's a conversational grammar form. It's not a formal grammar form or a fancy grammar form at all. It just sounds like speech. So you could say 준비를 했기 때문에, because we performed, but because we prepared. However, 때문에 has more of a, when it's used to mean because in a grammar form, 때문에 has more of a formal feel to it. Not a fancy feel, but just a formal feel. By formal, it also kind of means like not friendly, not personal. So in order to have a feeling of being a little bit fancy, but without sounding like you're speaking formally, you'll hear people use 만큼 a lot as kind of a middle ground. It's not as casual and basic sounding as 으니까, but it's not as formal and distant as 때문에. So you get 만큼. So you'll hear a lot of people use it for that purpose. And if you want more sentences, there are also a bunch in the worksheet, just letting you know. I ran out of space. Let's try that again. 브랜드는, okay. 변화에 빠르게 반응해요. I have more space down here? Yeah, a little bit. 반응해요. Okay. 그 브랜드는 that brand. They can't have my brand. 그 브랜드는 20대. 대 is used for generation. So this is people in their 20s. 20 generations. So 20s. 들을 타겟으로 하다. 타겟으로 하다 is to target. 타겟으로 하다. So 타겟으로 하고 있어요. So they are targeting. So that brand is targeting people in their 20s. 하고 있는 만큼. Again, 있는 present tense are targeting amount. But let's just think of it as because that's simpler. So because 하고 있으니까 변화 change 에 to 빠르게 반응하다. 반응하다 is to react. So they react 빠르게, swiftly, quickly, rapidly to 변화, to change. So because that brand is targeting people in their 20s, they react quickly to change, right? If you're targeting younger people, you got to react to the trends really quickly, right? 그 브랜드는 20대를 타겟으로 하고 있는 만큼 변화에 빠르게 반응해요. So because that brand is targeting people in their 20s, it responds quickly or reacts quickly to change. 그 브랜드는 20대를 타겟으로 하고 있는 만큼 변화에 빠르게 반응해요. You could think of this as they're targeting people in their 20s this much. And this much is how they are how quickly they are reacting to change. But it's not really going to help you to think of it that way. That's just kind of a way to help you to calm yourself down that 만큼 can mean because, but no one's really thinking of it that way. You can just think of it as because. Although, yeah, in some situations there will be short sentences, especially sometimes it'll sound like both. For longer sentences, just think of it as because. Okay, I'll leave this up for just a second. 만큼 and 뜻 is a completely different form. 뜻이 is like something or as if. This is not that sort of meaning. 뜻이 is for making comparisons. 만큼 is for talking about the amount or quantity of something. Hey, Kai! My beginner self is just happy to be here. Very motivational. Thank you, Kai. Hopefully you're at least following along. This lesson, while I'll admit that 만큼 by itself is an intermediate grammar form, using 만큼 with a noun is like beginner level. Using 만큼 with a verb is intermediate. Using 만큼 to mean because is advanced, because it's not as common as other forms you're going to use. Understanding it, though, is still kind of intermediate, but I think using it is going to be advanced level. So if you feel like, oh, I couldn't use this form yet, that's fine. As long as you understand it, you're better than you even need to be. Okay, we've talked about 3 different ways that you can use 만큼 with nouns, with verbs, and then also with verbs to mean because. But there's one more form that can also be used with verbs that can mean the same thing as much as. And that is 정도, specifically 정도로. Now, I've done a live stream about this December 17th, 2018. If you want to learn about 정도로 separately, where I talk all about it, I give lots of examples. We're not going to be covering that form again. So if you don't know this form, you can plug your ears for the next 5 minutes while I give you some quick examples. Both 만큼 and 정도로 can be used to say as much as, or so much that, to the amount that, like that, with verbs, just like we saw before. Now, 정도로 is not going to be used to mean because, but if you're actually saying the amount of something, you can use 정도로 in the same way. And the way it works is that if you're using 정도 as an adverb, like how much you did something, it's going to be 정도로 as an adverb. Or you're going to see 정도 if it's used with anything else. Like, for example, if you're using it with the verb 이다, like it is the amount or the extent that, something like that. Like 만큼이다, 만큼 정도이다. But otherwise, you're going to see it as 정도로. So that's why the 로 is in parentheses, because you'll see it as 정도로 as an adverb or just 정도 when it's used with 이다. It's used, though, in the same way with an adjective in any tense, so any verb. So then what's the difference? Again, you do not need to care about this difference if you haven't already learned 정도로. And actually, you don't even need to care about it unless you really care about it. This is just because I know someone out there is going to be like, Billy, how is this different from 정도로, which I didn't actually learn yet? So this is for you. This is for you. Some other things you should know about it are 정도로 or 정도 are just as is. You don't add anything to the end of it. It's just 정도. 만큼, however, we already saw that you could add other particles to the end. Like we saw, for example, 만큼, sorry, I wrote that. 만큼만, right? Only the amount. You can't do 정도로만 or anything like that. So that's one other difference, is that 만큼 by itself is just a particle, but 정도 is the particle and 로 is already something attached to it. So you can't add more after 정도로. Another difference is that 만큼 is only used in grammar forms. We saw 만큼 used with nouns or with adjectives, right? 정도, however, can be used by itself. You can have 정도 as a regular word, which just means an extent or an amount of something, like about how much, approximately. It has a bunch of different uses. 만큼 is not. 정도 can be used as its own noun by itself. 만큼 must be used in these grammar forms as you're seeing. So that's another difference. And finally, a really small difference if you want to say something like, 할 만큼 했어요. So 하다, to do. So I did the amount that I would do or I could do. So I did all I could. 할 만큼 했어요. 할 만큼 다 했어요. I did everything that I could do. The amount of everything. You can say that. 하다. 하다 before and 하다 after. You cannot do 할 정도 했어요. You can't duplicate the verb with 정도 because it sounds a bit awkward. You can't say 할 정도로 했어요 or anything like that. So that's another really small difference. But besides these really small differences, if you're saying the amount of something, like as much as something, you can use either 만큼 or 정도, and you're both going to be correct. It'll be correct either one you use. So that's just another form. If you see 정도 used in the same way, 정도로 can also be used just like 만큼 with those few exceptions. Okay, there's one more usage of 만큼 we have to talk about. Right after I check Lexica's note. Lexica, minute 7. Lexica, minute, oh wait. I can't do math. I'm a Korean teacher, not a math teacher. Lexica, thank you for sharing so much great information with us every live stream. Autocorrect is trying to to mess this up so badly. Yes. Still, though, you did a pretty good job because you didn't get messed up too much by autocorrect. Thank you, Lexica. Could be used for degree. Yeah, 정도 could be used for a degree. It has many translations, and you can use it as its own noun, like that, to mean an extent or a degree or whatever. You can't use 만큼 by itself to mean that. It always has to be used together with something. So, okay. But again, it's not a big difference. It's like if you see 만큼 or 정도 in the same sort of 정도로 in the same sentence, it's fine. You don't have to be like, oh, which one's different nuance? Well, again, like you learn that 만큼 can also be used to mean because, 정도 is not. You also learn 만큼 is used with other particles, 정도 is not. And you also learn that 만큼 is used just after, well, actually, you'll see one more usage that's definitely not the same as 정도. So here's one more way that 만큼 can be used. Here's one more form. 은이만큼. 은이만큼 goes after a verb stem. So This one is not with an adjective, but it's just the verb stem. So if you have hada, the verb stem is ha, you attach ni 만큼. If you use the verb 먹다, 먹 ends with a consonant, so you do 먹으니만큼, like that. If you're using the verb 이다, it's just 이니만큼, right? But if you have verb stems that end with this letter, you remove it first. So there are some exceptions, but that's the same with any grammar form that has this letter nian in it anyway. So it's not really a special exception for this form. It's everyone does that. So 으니만큼, what does it mean? Well, this form is a combination of 으니, which is, you probably know this form, in 으니까, meaning because. So this is a combination of because and 만큼, which we learn means an amount, but can also be used to mean because. So we have here because. We have that in a grammar form. So can anyone guess what this form might possibly mean? Can you wrap your heads around what this form means? What do you think it means? Can anyone guess? Someone said, I heard this expression a lot. Oh, I hope you don't mean this. You're not going to be hearing this one. Kai, can you guess what this form means? Is it, you are right. It is, I almost swore. You are right. This form has the same meaning as 만큼, meaning because, and it means because. Because it means because. So this form means because. And only because. It doesn't mean amount anymore. It's more like an extra emphatic way of saying because. So this one actually just means because. I know I said that 만큼 doesn't really mean because, but this one actually means because. So when do you use this form? Well, first of all, I need to let you know that this form sounds even more fancy, but it's not just a more fancy version of 만큼 to mean because. It's also less common. Typically, if something sounds more fancy, that also will mean it's less common. So just know that. So it's less common, sounds more fancy, but when would you use this form? You cannot just use this form anytime you want to say, because of this, this happened. No. This form is specifically used for one thing. It's used for expressing the speaker's opinion on something's reason, on the reason for something. So, how did that happen? Well, it happened because, I think, of this. What do you think about that? Well, I think that because of this is the thing that I think, whatever. Now, I should note, this is not used in sentences where you're answering someone's question about why. It's not used when they ask about the reason for something, strangely. If someone says, what do you think is the reason for this? Why do you think this happened? This is not the one you're going to be using. This is more of just expressing your general opinion on something. So you're already talking about something else, and then you just want to bring up, your opinion about the reason for something. But it's not for answering the reason on something. Because the nuance would seem a bit weird in Korean, because how this one has extra nuance to mean because. It's not used when you're answering someone's why question, but it is used when you're answering a general question about something. Someone asks you, most commonly this will be to express just what you think about something. My opinion is this something because of this is what you get. So it's used for expressing the speaker's opinion. It sounds fancy and it's less common. There is a very real 0% chance you're ever going to use this form in your entire life, but you will see it sometimes. Like if someone's giving a fancy answer in a speech and they're talking about something, like, what do you think about this? Then they're going to use this form. So let me give you an example. because. Yeah, Kai got it. I was pretty impressed. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. Again, I said fancy. I did not say formal. This is not a formal sentence. This is just a fancy sounding sentence. It still ends in the yul form, so it's not formal. 아직, still or yet. 젊다 is to be young. So because 젊으니까, because you're still young, 젊으니만큼. My opinion is, well, what I think is because you're still young, 금방, soon, right away. 다른, to be different. 다르다, to be different. So 다른 일, a different job or another job. 할 수 있다, you can. 할 수 있어요, you can do it. 할 수 있을, future tense, will be able to, future. 거예요. So you will be able to do another job right away or soon because you're still young, is what I think. So what I think is because you're still young, you should be able to do another job 금방, right away. 아직 젊으니만큼 금방 다른 일을 할 수 있을 거예요. So because you're still young, you'll be able to do another job right away. So don't worry about it. I'm sure because you're still young, you're going to be able to do another job right away. 아직 젊으니만큼. Again, 젊으니까, because. But 젊으니까 does not sound fancy or formal at all. But 젊으니만큼 sounds very fancy. So it's the same thing. It's just for expressing your opinion on something. It's the same thing as just saying because, but you want to sound a little bit fancier. And I'm not going to use the 으니까. I'm cool. I'm too cool for that. That's for like people who just speak. Nah, I don't do that. My words are special. 아직 젊으니까, no. 아직 젊으니 also, but 젊으니 sounds like 젊은이. So I don't want to use 젊으니. Let's say 젊으니만큼. Now I'm fancy. 금방 다른 일을 할 수 있을 거야. You're going to be able to do another job right away. Don't worry about it. I'm fancy. Kind of like that. Okay. 아직 젊으니만큼 금방 다른 일을 할 수 있을 거예요. That is our lesson. Let me take a quick thumbnail. Oh, wait. I almost erased part of Flo Purdy's donation. No, I got to fix that. There we go. Let me take a quick thumbnail. I think that's the thumbnail. Okay, that is our lesson today. How do you feel about that? Do you feel okay? We covered 5, well, I guess 4 if you don't count 정도 comparisons, 4 separate uses. There is one more I didn't include in the lesson, but no one asked about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. But there is one more form that you can see 만큼 used in 으리만큼, but I'm not going to talk about that. It's simple, but no one wants to know about that. Other than that, you are now a master of 만큼. So what does 만큼 mean? Hopefully, at least you know this. Then you can at least understand it in every usage. Yeah. Someone's asking about 눈치. Yes, someone already explained it in the chat. To read the room, social awareness, anything like that. Small says, which because do you use? It depends on how fancy you want to be that day. Yeah, are you putting on like a bow tie? Are you putting on like an ascot? Are you going to a dinner party, or is this, just a casual event? Meeting your friends at the bar? Or are you going out to like an academic meeting and shaking hands with like important people? That's what you got to know. You can like pick out the because you want to use. You have like your pack of because. Because the trading cards. How many because forms are there in Korean? If I sat down, I'm sure I could come up with 25 right away. Like that number is easily reachable for because forms, but I'm sure there's more. Yeah, someone can make a trading card game about because in Korean. Dude, I'll give you one of my 으니만큼s for one of your 으리만큼s. It was a bit tough, but I followed along. I don't think I'm going to say it anytime soon, but I think I would understand it. Well, that's great. If you would understand it, that's more than enough. Would you be able to use 만큼 by yourself with a noun? That's going to be most of the times you're going to use it, is just with a noun, like as much as something, the amount of something. If so, then that's good. Just knowing it can work as because helps with a lot. Yeah, that's enough. Just know that it can mean because. Again, I explained a lot of extra information that you just don't need because I know someone's going to wonder it. They're like, how does that work? So at least now you can understand why and promptly forget it because you don't need to know why. It just is. Bora says, I sometimes hear 에라이 모르겠다. It's an expression you can say. It's a casual expression that you can say that means whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, whatever. It's that. 에라이. Or 에이 모르겠다. A pack of because. Yes, minute 20 because I learned, so maybe there are 25 because. I'm sure there are more. Ellie says, this was my first time. Thanks for explaining. Nice. Got some first timers. Anyone else here for their first time? Billy, 가지고 can also be to the extent. No, 가지고 is not extent. 가지고 is, well, it has a few different meanings. If you're talking about the particle or are you talking about the grammar form, which is simply a replacement for 서, for because. All of us detail-oriented overthinkers. Yeah, I was like way overthinking this lesson. I always overthink everything when I'm learning something in Korean. When I learn like grammar forms for the first time, I always go and like try to find out why does it mean that? Where did it come from? Naver Dictionary is pretty good to find out stuff, but it doesn't have everything I found. Billy, is there a difference between 적 and 스럽다? 자연적이다. Yeah, there is a 적 for that, but one of them will be more common than the other. So that's, you pretty much just memorize the one that you hear the most often. I have Wizard of Oz in my head now because, yeah, I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry. Oreo. Oh, Oreo. I'm still a bit confused how not to mix with 만큼 and 토록. Those are different forms. I do have a separate live stream about 토록 though. 토록 has different meanings. It means so that. But it also has a few other meanings too. So I have a separate live stream on all the meanings of 토록. So watch that. It's on my channel as well, completely free. Maddie says, I find 만큼 confusing, especially compare it with 정도. Yeah, I did cover with 정도, but if you didn't watch that, it's the same thing as 정도. When you use 정도, you can swap it with 만큼. Just know that there are some slight differences in like how you can use the particle. Like you can't add any extra particles to 정도, but you can to 만큼. But other than that, it's the same meaning for that usage. When it means the extent of or so much that, 정도 and 만큼 both work. 한국 문법이 어려우니만큼 머리가 터질 것 같아요. Because, so yeah, it's when you're explaining something, you're giving your opinion. So I think that my head is going to explode because Korean grammar is difficult. 토록 is what you're thinking of. Oh, okay, yeah, 토록 would be separate. But that's so that. Like in order for that or something like that. And I have a separate live stream about that, but these are not related. I messed up asking this earlier, but I saw a survey where they asked what age group are you in, and they went 10 to 20, 30 to 40, 50 to 60. I was wondering about ages between. All right, is this a question? Billy, do you plan to remake the 위에서 live stream? I think the abridged one should be fine though, but let me know if the abridged one isn't. I think the abridged one though, what should have been fine because I recorded the lesson at the same time. I don't know if that's one of the ones that was completely messed up. Like I did have one in the live streams that was, the quality was messed up, but the version that I had saved on my computer was okay. And that's the one I used to edit. So it's okay. But I do have a separate lesson about 위해서 and 위한 that I did in my Korean FAQ series. So if you want to learn about that, I say just check out the Korean FAQ episode instead. But yeah, I don't have plans to remake other older live streams though, just because I feel like I've already, like some of the ones that were really old, I've actually already done new lessons in other places about it. So I don't really need to make a new live stream about it. Oh, you're talking about the tilde, that little wavy thing. That's from to. From something to something. The abridged one is fine, but it's because I like watching the full one. Okay. Yeah, some people prefer the full live streams over the abridged. I think, like, when I edit this abridged one, I'm probably going to cut out a lot of the extra information too. Like, I gave you the explanation about exactly why 만큼 can be used to mean because. I'll probably cut that out of the abridged because it's not something that you need to know. You can just know that 만큼 also means because, and you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. So, for the language geeks that want to know how it makes any sense, and they want to know if 만큼 is changing meaning or something in that, or if it's a different origin, or that's just for them. But that's not going to be in the abridged version, most likely. All right, any questions? I'll take questions now for about 15 minutes. I know we got Christmas coming up this week. Looking forward to that. Although I bought my own presents, so I already know what I'm getting. What am I getting? I'm getting stuff I think for cooking. I have some like cooking ingredients that I'd asked for. Yeah, just stuff, nothing like fancy, but just some cooking stuff so I can cook some different types of dishes. And then a couple little things of candy that I got from a store. Like interesting looking candy. And then I got a jar of, it looks like Italian anchovy stuffed olives, which I picked out for myself. Because I like anchovies, so I got a jar. I don't know if these are good, but I think they sell them in another country, maybe Spain. They're anchovy stuffed olives. So I don't know if anyone's ever had that or heard of that before, but I just thought it looks so interesting, so I got one of those. I think that'll be in my stocking. Judy! I was almost writing the A part first. Judy A, 82. Thank you so much, Judy. Just because. Hilarious. But really, thanks as always. No, thank you, Judy. Will we ever get the flashy board lights back? They're supposed to work, but I don't know why they're not working. They're supposed to work. But what happened was the company that released these, they have an app that goes with it together. So I can turn them on and off. The app works. But then I connect it to my Google account, and when something's wrong with the app, I think it's just it's some random Chinese app. And I think it just doesn't like the app. So it stopped working. It worked for like a good year, 2 years when I got it. And then after that, it started having issues where it just disconnect, and sometimes it just wouldn't turn on. So it's connected, it should work, but it just doesn't. I don't know why it doesn't work. Hey, Flo again. Hey, Flo. Yeah, I'm gonna erase it and rewrite it, since I accidentally had rubbed part of it off the other while writing another sentence. Flo, second bottom of the hour. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas. Yes, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Oh, I gotta watch that. I gotta watch Muppet Christmas Carol again. I haven't watched that movie in like 2 years. But that's like one of the top Christmas movies ever made. That's the short list for the top Christmas movies. It'd be Muppet Christmas Carol's right there. It's just such a good movie. It's just such a good message. Like, even if you don't celebrate Christmas, it's got a good, because it doesn't really have any, it's not religious at all. It doesn't have anything like that, but it's just such a good movie for like this sort of time of the year. 얼마 안 남았어요. That means there is not much left. So it's 얼마 is, well, normally if it's used in a question, it's how much, but if it's used in a statement, it's a certain amount, a small amount. So 안 남았어요, not 남다, to be left over. So there's not left over a small amount. So there's not much left over is what you get. Does the app need an update? It's not an update for the app. It's actually, I think, an update for the app's API in Google's IFTTT. If this, then that. It's like a service that connects devices together. And it's something to do with that it just doesn't, it's not getting the signal correctly. I think it should be connected though. Yeah, it's connected. They're both connected. Can I test it? Yeah, it's connected. It just doesn't work. It just stopped working. What I should do is buy a bigger board. I should buy a board that just covers this whole space. That way I'll be standing in front of the board. I can have my sponsors here, but I'll have more space to write. Like I can have an extra, this much extra, like 6 inches or whatever. And then get a new pack of lights, not a random pack from China. No offense to China, but this is like, bottom of the barrel quality LED lights, really cheap. But I should get a real, like a nice brand, high quality ones that have a good app that gets support and reconnect it and then get new lights around the new board. I think that's really what I should do someday. Turn it sideways. That would be a good idea, but this cannot be turned sideways because the legs only connect on one side. So if I turn it sideways, it would just be the legs would be sticking out that side. They're attached. There's no way to, I can remove the legs, but there's no way to make it mount sideways without just putting it on top of like boxes and stuff. But yeah, sideways mounting would also work. Then I would have more space because there's an extra like almost a foot at the bottom that you can't see where all the pens are and everything. Cosma says, why no more green screen? Do you miss the green screen? I like the green screen. I just think most people didn't really care about it because I would spend like 20 minutes every live stream preparing like an image and sometimes preparing like an effect or a sound or something to go with it. Sometimes it would be like animations or whatever. And I'd prepare, but I don't know if people really cared about it. So I'm just like, whatever, I'll just use color. This is easy. I just turn it on. I can change the color. See, I can make it, see what I can do with it. Let's do greenish for Christmas, I guess. Not red. There we go. Green. You do green? Sure. So this is easy, but yeah. And the other thing is that I couldn't use green erasers. I couldn't use green markers or anything close to green. But what if you go on location again? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm going to call up Adobe and ask, does Adobe have a product? Oh, of course you do. That's the only thing that I wish I had Adobe for is green screening because the program I use for editing has like the worst green screen plugin ever. I feel like it's been the same version since like 20 years ago, the same plugin. It's never improved. And I kind of wish that they had the green screen plugin that After Effects has or Premiere has. That's the only reason I would want to use them. Other than that, no. Yeah, I'll have to call up Adobe, be like, hey, can I talk with Kai? The green screen. Do you like the green screens? I could do them. Like I said, it just means I can't use green markers. Do you still have Blackpink? Blackpink, they are in the studio. I'm not in the studio right now, but they're in the dance studio. They're still practicing. I think actually though Blackpink left, I think it's Stray Kids hanging out back there right now. I'd have to go check. When are you going to visit Korea? I'm going to go visit Korea again next summer. I already got my plane ticket. I'll be going to Korea at the end of May and staying until the end of July. So June and July, a little over 2 months that I'll be in Korea. And then maybe I'll go again in fall. I didn't go this year in fall because I already had other projects to do and I didn't have enough ideas to warrant spending $3,000 on a Korea trip for this to go during this fall. So that's why I'm still here. Normally I would go to Korea for an extra month, in November, but I didn't this year because of that. But next year, maybe I'll go again, twice. 마음 가는 대로 하세요. Yes. You know Stray Kids and Blackpink? You're so cool. Yeah, I'm pretty hip. I know all the bands, like the BSTs, the kids that are Stray, the Blacker Pinks. You know all those cool groups? The Old Jeans, the N apostrophe. Who else is there? 16 and NCIS. And Once. Yeah, Once was so good that they made a sequel. Twice is kind of cool, but the Once were the real ones. The homeless children. The Big Booms. Yeah, the Big Booms. Dang, Big Booms were so popular back in the day. Ladies' Generation. I think they're all in their like 30s or something. Those were pretty cool. Ladies' Generation were the first one, and then Cyborg, I believe, made that song. Cyborg made the song Gangnam Style. Stella's mom. Thank you, Stella's mom. Wait, is that? Oh, I thought for a second your icon is the clown from It until I looked closer. I'm like, no, that's like a painting. But I just saw like the white face paint and the hair, and I'm like, that's the clown from It. Wake Catcher. Yes, thank you, Stella's mom. And a Merry Christmas to you, too. Yeah, Teen Titan. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. That was back in the day. Big Boo. And Super Senior. Super Senior is still pretty big, though I know they're much bigger in the past. Super Senior. Gosh, who else is there? There's just so many influential Korean music groups. I just can't remember all of them. Yeah. And then Dull. They made Ring Ding Dong. It's a sailor girl smoking a pipe. My other online handle, Smoking Tiger. Okay. Nice. No. Is Sonyeoshide still kind of big? No, they haven't. They haven't performed in a while. I mean, they're still big in that everyone knows them, and that I would say they were the first group to break out of Korea. Yeah, probably the Girls' Generation was the first group to break out of Korea into the US, but not big enough to make the term K-pop something that everyone knows until Gangnam Style. Then everyone was like, oh, there's K-pop, which was 2012. And then 2016, Twice came out and were fairly popular, but I think it wasn't really until BTS that people started thinking like, oh, there is K-pop. Of course, I know. I've always liked K-pop. Oh yeah, I've always been a fan. That's kind of when that started, was like 2018, 2019-ish. And then the next bigger one was 2020 with Parasite. I'm just thinking of like the events that brought Korea outside of Korea to us foreigners. Parasite in 2020, which was like all of a sudden people were like, what? There are Korean movies? Wow. Like was kind of the event. And then 2021 with Squid Game. There are Korean dramas too. So yeah, these are like the big events. And I think the very first one would have been Girls' Generation back in like 2010, 2011, 2012, around that time when they were the biggest. I thought Wonder Girls did. That was prior to Girls' Generation. Wonder Girls was like 2017 when they started to get popular, until like 2007, 2008, 2009, around then was when Wonder Girls were really big, but they didn't really break into the US much. They had the song Tell Me, which was kind of popular, which I found out recently is a copy, or I shouldn't say copy, but hugely pays homage to the song Two of Hearts from the 80s. Go listen to Two of Hearts. I swear, it's Tell Me. Go listen to it right now. Two of Hearts. I can't remember the singer. It's like an 80s song. It's like Two of Hearts. It's exactly, it's Tell Me. But I think Tell Me is a little bit better. They mixed it better. It sounds cooler. But yeah. But that was the first song that kind of started to, but it wasn't like you could ask someone, hey, what do you think about K-pop? They wouldn't have a clue after Wonder Girls. It wasn't until like Girls' Generation when people started to be like, oh, I've heard about that. So yeah, season 2, Squid Game. That's right. What about Big Bang? Not so much. Like they were a thing. They were a group, yes, along with like Super Junior and a lot of other groups, but it was still the people who already knew about K-pop that would like them. It wasn't like, what I mean is like a hand coming out of Korea and grabbing other countries. Like Girls' Generation did that. Gangnam Style did that the most. And then BTS did that again. But in between, there wasn't really anything that came out other than fans that were already slowly trickling in that would learn about these groups. Yeah, Two of Hearts, I believe, is the song name, not the group. Stacy Q, that sounds right. Yeah, Stacy Q, Two of Hearts, yeah. You also have Run Devil Run. I remember that song. But again, it's a Korean thing. People who already knew the music would like it. It wasn't something that would grab people who weren't already into K-pop unless they were looking for it. So I kind of see them as a different thing. Like, yes, they were popular among people who liked Korean music, very popular, but not outside of that sphere. Is StarCraft still big? Yes, but not as big as it was back in the day before StarCraft 2 came out. Ozingo Game. Yeah, Ozingo Game 2 comes out in a few days. I already know what's going to happen. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just saying I already know what's going to happen because I can predict it. But yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out for sure. There's going to be a season 3 though anyway, so you have to wait for that to find out what the ending is. Let's see here. I thought Wonder Girls had a tour in the US. Did they? Yeah, they probably did a tour, but at the time, and I mean, there have been other K-pop singers who have broken out into the US, like Rain. Does anyone remember Rain from like 2005? I think he had that do 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 that song where he's like singing in the rain or whatever. They had that song. I think it was 2005 or whatever. It kind of got over into the US, but no one really knew what it was at the time. So I don't really count that sort of stuff. But yeah, if a group has a tour in the US, it's going to be people who are they're Korean Americans in the US or other Asians in the US that like Korean music already. They're not going to be like the typical like foreigner that you think of that would get into it. It's like country music in America. It's its own little world. Yeah, Rain was quite popular. I think Rain was even on the cover of like Time magazine or something like that at the time, I remember. And he did a skit which was hilarious for the time. He went on the show Stephen Colbert, and Stephen Colbert made like a song parody. And maybe you've seen this before. This is like back 2005, I think. He did a parody of Rain's song called Singing in Korean, and it's hilarious. And this was way back before Korean was anything like outside of Korea. Like no one knew Korean music existed outside of Korea. No Korean dramas existed, no movies, nothing. Even though stuff was coming out, it wasn't like people weren't really aware of it. The drama When the Phone Rings is tropey heaven for K-drama fans. I don't know that one. Boyfriend in like 2014. I don't know them. This is such a fun and educational live stream. Oh, I'm glad you like my rambling. We're just talking about Korean stuff. Don't worry, it won't be too much longer. I'll stop in like 15 minutes. I'm gonna edit the lesson from today. But I can only go back in my head to as early as like 2004 when it comes to Korean stuff, because before then I had no knowledge of anything in Korean at all. So, but something from 2004 and beyond, I can tell you like, oh, this is how it started. This is what happened. This is how popular it was. Chat, no. I actually am. I actually do need to stop in 15 minutes because this live stream, like I said, it had 5 sections. This is going to take a long time to edit. If I keep going, it's going to take me like all night to edit. But I need to get this edited and uploaded within like 3 hours from now. Billy, are you liking the Uri Hakyonen game? I'm playing it a bit, but honestly, no. No, not so much for various reasons. The voice acting's good. The drawing's good. The game, the characters are kind of annoying and it's confusing because they introduce in the very beginning, they introduce 6 people right away and you're supposed to care about them, but you don't know anything about them and none of them are likable. They're all annoying. One of them keeps making like fake slang words using Japanese, which is really annoying because it's like, it's clear the author doesn't know how like a Japanese fan of stuff like that would talk. They're just making it up. So that character is really annoying. And then one of the other characters switches his name badge with his girlfriend. So it's confusing trying to learn their names when he's wearing the wrong badge. And they use nicknames for each other that you don't know because you don't care about him. So not really. I'm playing it, but no, it's not really pause that. It's not really my favorite game so far. It should start taking off soon. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe it'll get better. I'm just saying so far it's like, nah. Billy, I'd like to cash in my dabs. All right, Kai. Kai is cashing in her dabs. She has 10 dabs. Get these dabs going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pleasure doing business with you, Kai. Count them. Those were your 10 dabs cashed in. Anthony says, not gonna lie, you inspired me to continue learning Korean. Nice. I'm divided between Busan and Seoul. Anthony, if you have never been to Korea before, I can answer that question for you. There is no discussion. The answer is Seoul. If you've never been to Korea before and you're wondering, where should I visit? The answer is Seoul, 100%. No matter what your situation is, no matter what kind of traveling you prefer, the answer is Seoul. Yeah, Busan, though, is legitimately a good place to visit, but it's not where I would say, actually, I wouldn't say anywhere is where you should go instead of Seoul for your first time in Korea. Now, if you have a long trip and you have a specific type of itinerary you like to do, like you just like visiting places, that's your style of traveling. I just want to visit the places. Then go to Seoul first. And then if you have extra time, I would say go to Jeju Island. Or if you don't want to go on another plane or a boat or whatever, then go to Busan. Sure, I would recommend that. Busan would be number 2 for a second place that I'd probably go if you have a short trip. But I wouldn't say to do Busan first, not because Busan's not great, it's cool, but most things that tourists want to do is going to be in Seoul. In fact, most things Koreans want to do are in Seoul. I hope action starts happening soon in the game. Yeah, me too. I hope something starts happening. Like I said, I just want everyone to get bit and turn into zombies because I don't like anyone in the game. Everyone's like annoying in the game and no one's nice. I want to like root for someone like, oh, this person's really cool. They're trying to do this, or they have like, no one has any goals or ambitions in the whole game. Just everyone just get bit and turn into zombies. I don't care. Hannah says, I went there went there for like 7 weeks. Okay. Yeah. 7 weeks. Sure. Do Seoul and Busan. You can do a lot of different places. Seoul has a lot to do. Yeah. It has so much stuff to do that I would say you can just stay in there the whole time. I mean, I'll go to Korea for 2 to 3 months every single year in the summer. And then another month later, I'm always just in Seoul. I still can't do everything there is to do in Seoul. Now, granted, my itinerary is different than yours. I don't try to just travel around. I go meet people, I film videos, and sometimes travel to new places. I Am Ben says, what's number 3? Number 3 would be Jeju. Yeah. Seoul, Busan, and then Jeju, I would say. Or Seoul, Jeju, and Busan, depending on what your style is. Number 4, that would be tricky to pick. Then I would have to check exactly what type of things you like to do, because do you like eating food? Just stay in Seoul. Are you trying to do like concerts or events or meet people? Just stay in Seoul. Are you trying to see nature? Then that's when you're going to be going to different places. Or do you want to see historical places? You know, go to Gyeongju or whatever. Like there are different places you go depending on what you want to do. Judy says, everyone suggested staying in Myeongdong on my first trip. Yeah, definitely do not stay in Myeongdong. I mean, you could stay there, but don't hang out there. I think Myeongdong is like, it's not bad, but it's the most overrated place, I'd say. And people who live there will probably tell you the same thing. It's not bad, it's just overrated. It's like not the best prices for anything. They don't have great street food. They don't have great anything there. It's just kind of most people hang out there because most people hang out there. And it's close, though, to many places you're going to go. So if you stay there, it's fine. But I wouldn't say hang out there in the area. I would say just use it as a nice location to take the bus and subway to go other places, because it's in a good spot. Same with Insadong. It's in a good spot as well. There are a few other areas like that around there that are all pretty good for staying in, but just that they themselves are not a great area. Because everyone stays there, you don't get a lot of the variety that you can get at other places. Like if you want street food, there are other places for it. If you want to shop for this, there are other places. The only thing that is really good in Myeongdong is the variety of cosmetic products there. You're not going to get the best product prices, but you're going to have the best selection in Myeongdong. So if you want to get Korean cosmetics, like I really want to get these beauty supplies, you can get them other places in Korea, but they're all there in Myeongdong. You can get them better prices in other places, but they're all there in Myeongdong. So that's why I would say, that's one thing I would say it's okay for. But food, snacks, not really. I would go other places. And it's not even the cheapest place to stay. There are other cheaper places if you're okay with staying somewhere else. You can get better prices. No stimulus in game yet. It's basically slice of life at the moment. Yeah, nothing's really happening so far. Raymond says near Seoul Station or Jonggak is a Seoul Station. That would be not bad. Not bad, but really busy and nothing to do. Near Seoul Station. Jonggak, similar. But, you know, location-wise, sure, you do want to stay in that area of Seoul somewhere. That way you can get to all the places you need to go. Sue Amazing says, can a beginner play Korean games? You can play it, but depends on the game. If it's a visual novel game where you're clicking through and reading things, it could be a bit advanced because you have to read the narration stuff, which is going to be written very difficultly, but the dialogue will be okay. I would say try it, see what you think. You can probably switch it to English if you can't do it anyway. I stayed in Hongdae and people hate on it, but nobody can make me hate Hongdae. I don't hate Hongdae. I stay, the last 3 times I went to Korea, I stayed near Hongdae. Not in Hongdae because the in Hongdae is just too expensive. But you can literally stay a 10-minute walk away from Hongdae for like a quarter of the price. So if you're just not in the Hongdae area, it's really cheap, and you can get a bus that goes to Hongdae immediately for like less than $1. And then you're in an area that's nice and quiet, and you can still walk to Hongdae whenever you want if you don't want to take a bus or a taxi. So yeah, I like that Hongdae area. Like I said, I just don't like Hongdae because it's really busy, not cheap, loud. But outside of Hongdae, right outside there is kind of okay. Kai says, I'm going 2026 summer or fall. Oh, nice. Yeah, if you're there in fall, if you're there in the summer, I'll be there. If you're there in the fall, I'll probably be there. Got something in my eye. Mafaz suggests Daegu. Oh, Daegu is cool. I've only been there like a handful of times in my entire life. Daegu has a lot of unique food. Like, a lot of food that you can get in each place of city. Like each city in Korea will have its own like specialty food, which is really just a tourism thing where they kind of organize to say, hey, this is where we're going to have this for tourism. This is where we're going to make this and say it's the best for this. A lot of that is decided by the Korean Tourism Board, I believe. So what that means is if you go to Busan and everyone says, oh, in Busan, you can get like, hey, you can get like, the raw fish or whatever, or go here and you can get bibimbap, or here it's famous for, galbi, or here it's famous. You can get any food and anywhere in all of Korea. But I found in Daegu, there legitimately is a lot of food that you cannot get in other places of Korea, which that was actually what surprised me the most, because I went to a city often called Andong, and Andong is kind of far from Seoul, but it's like 4-hour bus drive or something like that. But in Andong, they have something called Andong Jimdak, and it's a version of Jimdak that's in Andong, but you can get Andong Jimdak in Seoul. And if you go to Busan, you can get like special noodles or whatever. They sell them exactly the same in Seoul. You just go to a restaurant that has Busan style. Daegu, they don't have Daegu food in Seoul. They'll have a different version, but you can't get the actual Daegu one unless you go to Daegu, because it's a Daegu exclusive. So Daegu was kind of cool that I noticed they had a lot of exclusives to Daegu, like different names for the same dish that they prepared differently over there. And I think there's a reason why, because Daegu food is legitimately spicy. Not like Korean food is so spicy, but it's actually spicy here. And a lot of that, like Koreans like spicy food, but they don't like that spicy food. I think a lot of people can't handle like that kind of really spicy food. So yeah, it did feel like a legitimately different culture going to Daegu, even more than going to Busan. And I really liked it. I went twice. Just this year, I went twice, and I'd been a couple times before years ago, but that's what stuck out with me the most was how many exclusive items there were there that I never heard of, I'd never seen before, I never tried. They had a slightly different name, like they switched the name around or whatever, and it's different. Yeah, Jeonju is bibimbap. Jeonju is famous for bibimbap, but you can get bibimbap anywhere in Seoul. Different kind, and Jeonju style bibimbap as well. Anthony says, are there any off the beaten path areas in Seoul? In Seoul? No. Everywhere is very beaten. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a tour. Like when you say tourist area, do you mean foreigner tourists or do you mean Korean tourists? Because if you're talking about areas that foreigners go to, it's really easy to get away from those. Just don't go near Myeongdong. Don't go near Insadong, Gwangjang-sijang, all the palaces. That's the area where all the foreigner tourists go. But if you go to other areas in Seoul, you'll find where the Korean tourists go. They're also busy, but there are lots of Koreans there, if that's the vibe you want. And there are lots of places like that, not too far from Seoul. I'm currently studying numbers and counting classifiers. I feel like I'm losing brain cells. Yeah, Eli, if it helps, most of those counters you're learning, you're not going to need. You only need like a handful of them on a regular basis. And technically any noun in Korean can become a counter. I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse, but any single noun in Korea can be a counter. Like you can say han mic for one microphone. You don't necessarily have to say the counter for a thing. You can just say the name, like han 종이, one paper. You don't have to say 한장 necessarily, the counter for thin sheets of things like paper or t-shirts. You can just say 한 종이 if you want. 한 페이지, one page, if it's like one page of something. So if you ever forget what to say, just say the actual noun and use it as a counter. That'll make sense. Someone says Mangwon 시장 is another place that you can stop by, which is still very touristy, but more so touristy for Koreans, less so foreigners. And give it another year, Mangwon might become the next, don't go there, it's overrated place. But right now, from what I understand, it's still okay. Is Jeolla good? I've never been to anywhere in Jeollado. Either Jeollanamdo or Jeollabukdo, neither. That's the one place in Korea I've never been to, is that whole area. Let's see. If in doubt, what do you recommend? Oh, there is nothing like that. You have to learn them. But I do have a live stream about numbers. I also have a beginner course lesson about numbers that give tips for how to do that. Okay, let's see. Let me check if I missed another comment. I was near Sangsu Station. It felt like I was far away, even though I was right there. Panther says, maybe stay near Insadong for the food? I'm going to disagree with you on that one. Insadong is not where you go for the food. Not to say they don't have restaurants there. There are like business people that work in the area that will eat there. But that's not the place where you're going to get, that's not typically where you're going to go to find like the best Korean restaurants for different types of food. It's more just like your standard restaurants for people who live in the area that eat anyway. What you go there to get is traditional souvenirs for gifts to bring back home. You go to Insadong because everything's there, and you're not going to find those things unless you were to go travel around Korea. You can get them all in Insadong, which is the cool thing. They'll even have like big giant stores that are just souvenir stores. So that's where I recommend getting all that sort of stuff. You want to get a traditional, like if your friend says, hey, bring me back something cool from Korea, something that's only in Korea, go to Insadong to get that. Food? No, not so much. But then again, like they do have restaurants there, but it's not like known for its restaurants. Unless there might be a really good restaurant though that you know in the area. Street food, they don't have street food there very much. Because if you're talking about the actual Insadong street where people typically do their shopping, not just the whole area around it, but the place where people actually go, that area has no street food except for like some little snack shops, like people selling like Korean candy or cookies or stuff like that. But they don't make like a bunch of the snacks like you can get even in Myeongdong, which has a big variety of that sort of stuff. Insadong doesn't really have that. It's more just side stalls that sell items, and then a couple booths that will have some snacks here and there. The wider area though, yeah, there probably is some stuff around. For Kai's slow internet. Did Kai say something about internet recently? For Kai's slow internet. Oh, I get it. I get it, Mikey. I get it. I was like, I didn't get it for a second. Because Kai missed her top of the hour spot. Thank you, Mikey. And thanks for reminding me that it's now 4 o'clock, so I should probably stop. But you know me. Han 종이 versus 종이 한 장. You would normally say 종이 한 장, but if you can't think of 장, you could say 한 종이, or it'll make sense. But you would normally say 종이 한 장, one sheet of paper, versus just one paper, right? In English, we do the same thing too. Why would you say it's one paper? You'd say a sheet of paper, right? You'd use the counter, a sheet of. So it's kind of like that in Korean. But it makes sense if you say one paper, give me 2 papers, right? It makes sense. It's just not, and there could be some cases when you would want to use that. She was late before and blamed the internet. Oh, that's right. I'm still here if you want to wait. I will wait 4 more minutes for you, Lexica. Kai, you don't have to apologize. Mikey's just bullying you. I think bullying is against the Adobe policies, right? Send Mikey a cease and desist. Like, don't bully Adobe members. You signed this terms and agreement when you downloaded our software. You got to keep it. Does anyone have any Korean questions? We've just been talking about like travel and stuff. Or food. Does anyone have any Korean questions before we go? And the next time I'm going to see you is going to be next Sunday, which will be after all the holidays and stuff. Noah says, here to say hello to Billy before the stream ends. Hey, Noah. More natural, 종이 한 장 than 한 종이. Yes, exactly. The letter is on its way. Watch yourself, Mikey. Kai sent the legal team a screenshot of Mikey's message. What Kai thought was just going to be a nice legal letter, they're going to be like, this gang is going to show up at Mikey's door, like these thugs, and they're going to be like threatening, showing him like a screenshot. Did you say this to one of our employees? To our CEO? I swear it'll be the funniest thing in the world if I meet Kai in Korea in like 2026 and she actually is like the Adobe CEO. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything I ever said about Adobe. I'm not. I'm so sorry for everything. I got all the power here. I'm not afraid to use it. Judy says, Billy, how do you say because in Korean? How do you say because? That's a good question, Judy. You know what? I got a minute. Let's go over all the ways we can think of to say because. Anyone out there think of a way to say because? First, we got unika, which is a general because for giving a reason. In spoken, we've got the sol form, which is used for, it has other uses too, but one usage is for showing a cause and an effect. Because of something happened, like that. You also have the very formal version, 때문. So 때문이다, 때문에, like that for because, when you're saying something very formal, straightforward. It is because of this. Oops. So let me just do it like this. You have 느라 or 느라고, which is when it's because of some sort of negative thing, like something that took a lot of effort to do, hard labor. You also have something that when you're blaming something, 탓, due to, 탓 means the fault of something. There's one other one I just thought of when I wrote this one down as well. Oh yeah, there's also 바람에, when it's due to something that's negative that happened in the past, only used with actions, like because someone did something due to that led to this happening as well. It's kind of more of a fancy version as well. We also have the 만큼 that we did today, and 느니만큼. Sorry, 은이만큼. 만큼 and 은이만큼. We also have our 이상 form, although it's not really because, but it can be used as a because of something. We have another, that would be unless. I won't include it, but it is also because form, but because it's a little bit farther, I won't include it, but it is used as a because form as well. What else we got? 가지고, yeah, that's true. 가지고 or 갖고. Hold on. We got another donation. Lexica. I waited an extra few minutes. Lexica, thank you so much. Happy holidays in May 2025. What's happening in May? What's happening in 5 months from now? May it be a year in which we all become way more fluent than we are now. Yes, I know it will be. Thank you so much, Lexica. What else? What else do we got? I know there are more. I mean, there's some other more that you could translate as because, but I'm thinking of like the official because forms. Let's see. I've taught more than this. What else do we got? 느라고, 으니까, 으니 could also be 으니 as well. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the actual just because ones. There are a few others like that come to mind, but they're not like officially because, so I won't include them. Yeah, that's good for right now. I'm sure there are some more. 테니까, yeah, like I wouldn't include 테니까 because it's just coming from the 으니까 form attached to 테, because there's 텐데 and 테니까. So I'm not including every version of all of these, just the main basic ones that mean because. 으로 인해, yeah. 인해 or 인해서. Due to, that's true, yeah. 통. 한 통에. Sorry, let me rewrite that one. That's another because form. 왜냐면 is just because, that's the expression. 왜냐하면, literally, if you ask why, 왜냐하면, if you ask why. So that's not a form, though. 면서 would be while doing something, so it's not a because. 아직 아기 먹어요? 철수 eats baby soon. 거든 is not a because form, but it could be an if form. And it tends to be used in sentences that are answering a because answer, but it itself doesn't mean because. So like I'm not going to include every single form that could ever mean because then there are more I can think of already. But I'm trying to think of all the ones that are like definitely will be listed as because. Oh, hey Mikey. Did you count the total? I didn't count it. Let me see. 25. Thank you so much, Mikey, for 25. You say, let's get you over $200 total for Christmas. I am at, oh, I can see right here. I am at $199.92. So if someone donates to me 8 cents and no, not a penny more, 8 cents, then I will be at $200, which pays for all the Christmas presents for my entire family. It actually does. We usually don't spend too much because you can get a lot. If you wait for sales, you know, you get free shipping, you get like, try to do like price hunting and stuff. You can get a lot of stuff. Sweet. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's see. What's the difference between tenika and nika? Yeah, tenika is used for, I have a separate live stream about that, but tende, and tenika both have the same te part. It's just the nika form attached because, and the te part is literally, it's used to make an assumption. So you're saying, I assume because, or tende, I assume, but a more natural translation for the tenika or tende, that te part is I'm sure. So because I'm sure, or I'm sure, but is what it means. So I'm sure that, like, of course, I'm sure. That's what the te part means. So you can just kind of think of it like that. That should help. Anthony too. Did I see Anthony? Oh, Anthony. No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I missed that, Anthony. Thank you so much, Anthony. What did you say? You said Merry Christmas and New Year's. What kind of New Year's? You just said New Year's. Is it happy? Is it a sad New Year's? Is it a terrible? Is this a... What kind of New Year's are you wishing me, Anthony? I hope next year is amazing for you. Thank you, Anthony. But you have to tell me what kind of New Year's this is. Let me see here. Kai says, so many last minute donations. And then Anthony, thank you so much. Although, because I didn't see Anthony's, yeah, Anthony already brought me over 200. So now I'm at 208.88 cents. I don't like that number 8. I don't like that number 8. I want another 1 cent. I don't want to be 8. I don't want to have 88 in there. This makes me feel weird. We gotta fix this. Thank you so much. Oh, and Raymond, I just saw yours right now too. That's why it's 28.88. We gotta fix this. We gotta fix this right now. Hold on, I gotta move Mankum and rewrite Anthony because I just erased him to erase. Anthony's back up. Anthony C. In case another Anthony donates, I want to make him separate. And then Raymond with 1011. Put that 1011 there. Thank you so much, Raymond, as well. Says, here's 8 cents within Canadian plus $10. Thank you so much, Raymond. Lexica. Thank you, Lexica. I really appreciate it. I was getting worried. I'm like, I can't end on that. I can't end with that. It's just... Thank you so much, Lexica, for a much better number. Okay, now our total is 210.87. I'm happy with that number. There are no numbers in there I dislike. It's not a repetitive number. So I'm good. No one else donate anything else because we're going to stop right now. I said no one else donate anything else, okay? If anyone else does, we're going to have a big problem here because I'm really happy with this number we got right now. So let me just check the chat. Hi. Oh my God. Kai, as always. Read the room, Kai. You didn't even comment anything. You didn't even comment. You just messed up the number. Now it's 212.81. I don't like that because now there are 2 2s. Before there was no number being used twice, but now it's 212.81. Notice there's 1 used twice and now 2 used twice. This is just horrible. I was so happy with that number before. Seriously, that was like such a beautiful number. No number used more than once. No weird meanings. It was perfect. It was... Kai's just causing trouble. It's all because I was trash talking Adobe, isn't it? I'm sorry, Kai. I'm sorry. What if there are 3 2s? 3 2s? No, I think if there are 1 1, 2 2s, 3 3s, 4 4s, and 5 5s, that would be okay. But other than that, it's just going to look like a weird number. Okay, someone has to make the... But I had to frustrate you a little bit on behalf of my company. Yes, I know Adobe's tactics. I know how you guys operate. Okay, that's good though for today. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for coming, and hopefully you learned something from the lesson today, as well as a lot of ways to say because. I know this isn't really a lesson, but I've taught all these before. I don't know if I've done 통해. I think I might have mentioned it though before. I've definitely taught all of the other ones, and there are some more. Like I said, I could include 테니까 here because it is because, but it's a different form of because. I could include uni by itself, which is also because, and I didn't. I could include 이상, which is another because form. There are a bunch of them, but this is like the basics here. Did I mix? Yeah, no, I got lexicas. I got lexicas as well. We learned Kai messed up and her internet sucks. I don't know why you can't use Adobe's internet. Do they got to have better internet. Like, I don't get it. I'm sure you have good internet at Adobe. What are they just don't pay you what you're worth. That must be it. That Adobe's like lowballing you. When you got the job, you're like, I'm way overqualified. I've worked at like 10 major companies before. And they're like, I guess we can pay you minimum wage, maybe an extra $1. We'll give you like $8.50 an hour. And you're like, okay. Yeah, you need Starlink. They monitor the mess out of us good employees. Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. Yeah, that the last job that I worked, this is a long time ago, before I started my channel, and I worked at a job that I used a company computer, and there wasn't any work to do during the daytime. There was like a lot of work in the morning and a lot of work at the end of the day, but during the day it was like nothing to do. So I would just have my work computer open and I would just play mahjong for like a few hours, like maybe an hour a day, an hour, 2 hours a day, just play mahjong like while, if I don't have any phone calls or didn't have anything to do. I'm sure they monitored that and they would have been like, hey, it's pretty good. It's pretty good at mahjong is what I'm sure that they thought. But they never mentioned it to me. They never complimented me on my skills. Frankly, I was kind of upset. I was hoping like they're watching it so they could see how good I was. So yeah, I mean, I was thinking it was so cool that they're monitoring until I found out that they don't actually care. What's the total now? The total now I said is $212.81. All right, we should stop because I really need to go back to my work, and my work is editing this video. So I'll just say thank you again one more time to all of our sponsors today. Mikey, Glass Artist, Kai, Bill, Lexica, Flo, Judy, Stella's mom, who I don't actually know their name. I only know that they're Stella's mom. Your name could be, I don't know, something else for all I know. Anthony and Raymond. Kai says, I study Korean at work. Hopefully they don't catch you. Oh, no, that's right. You're the CEO, so you can do whatever you want. You don't have to work. You tell them, stop looking at my computer. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'll see you again next Sunday. We're going to have a lesson about 짜리. Next week's lesson will be 짜리. If you're wondering why 만큼 was this week, it's because when I prepared the lesson Thursday, 만큼 was ahead, but then 짜리 got ahead at like Friday and Saturday. So that's why it doesn't look like, that's why it looks like 짜리's in the lead, but I picked 만큼 because it used to be 만큼 was a little bit ahead. Next week, we'll have a lesson about 짜리. So I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.